known man in the person of Mr. or maybe Professor, a lot of Marnie that they give him all the time, Nelson Mandela. And I'm sure we all know of him. We've heard of him for the civil rights and apartheid, especially in South Africa and even for Africa as a whole. And it says here, his quote says, "It always seems impossible until it is done. It always seems impossible until it is done." Now, this quote is by Nelson Mandela, as I said, and it speaks to the strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity. It reminds us that many of the greatest achievements in the history of mankind seemed out of reach, whether it was the end of the apartheid, the struggle for civil rights, or even the conquest of space. As we know in South Africa, sometimes there's an imbalance in the blacks and the whites, you know. I'm sure we know all about that. And now, as I continue, so it says here, Mandela's own life is a powerful testament of this truth. And after spending 27 years in prison, he emerged not with bitterness in his heart, but with a vision for reconciliation and nation building. Now, his words encourage us to push forward even when the odds are stacked against us. Now, his message is very clear that the barriers we see, as much as they are real, they are also in our heads or mental. And when we face daunting challenges, it is very easy to feel overwhelmed and discouraged. But with courage, vision, and unwavering determination, we can overcome those challenges. And lastly, I would like to leave this with you saying that this quote inspires us to take the step forward, to steady the course and be on it, and trust that even though it feels impossible, one day it can become a reality. And I hope that as we are entering the weekend, this quote inspires us to take the step, no matter what it feels like, it's challenging and everything. I know that as we take the step, as we listen to Nelson Mandela, we'll be able to overcome any of our challenges and achieve the greatest feats of our lives. Next is the online print review, and we will be right back.
To add all those test flight application to something like this. Yes. Oh, that's quick. That's crazy. That was quick. He's going to be able to draw a level. Yeah. Wow. Wow.
In a world where neutrality in the civil service is paramount, Ghana finds itself at a crossroad.
Closer says that a certain action should be taken, but government has to act on the basis of law. So we inquired as to what the premise for that demand is.
They say if you wish to broadcast or otherwise manifest your political allegiance or run political office, step away from the services. This is Supreme Court talking. It's not Closer speaking or Isaac Wampado speaking. This is the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court judgment on the landmark case of Clockside versus the Attorney General has set the stage for a profound transformation. Introducing Resetting the Civil Service. Tune in to be part of this change, because a better civil service means a better Ghana.
I find it refreshing always when I remind myself of the profound statement by the eminent civil servant, the Tan Anankwa of blessed memory, to the effect that it is the perfection of the civil servant that will move this country forward, and not the politician.
reduce. M-I-M-I, aka, you know the name.
Ghana music has really been put in.
You're welcome back to the Koko Digest Morning Show, and if you're just tuning in, we're about to have our online and print review with two of my co-hosts here with me in the studio, and we have Peter Insia and Nanayao Asare joining me here for the online print review. So please do well to send in your comments to our WhatsApp number displayed on your screen and also to our Facebook or YouTube live stream, and I will do my best to read them out loud. Anything happening in and around your neighborhood or vicinity, you can also share with us, and we'll do well to discuss and read them out loud. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Ira.
Good morning.
Yes, how are we doing? The weekend is approaching.
Yeah, so I'd like to borrow the words of Nana. Up and grateful. Up and grateful. Divine selection.
I see. Does this divine selection have anything to do with the ongoing football tournament, civil service week games?
We're just hoping you wouldn't mention that, but since you did, yesterday Peter was at the Accra Sports Stadium, and you can actually watch the highlights online wherever you go.
Did you score my 6 goals that you owe me?
It was unfortunate. But we go.
It's in the pipeline. It's in the pipeline.
I'm
We've seen where the mistakes are, and we know where we paper the cracks.
So Nana himself was leading the front line.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I see.
And that's why we scored 0 goals.
Black Stars, please. There are able footballers here. Come for them. Right. So, what's trending in our world today?
So a lot is trending, but I would like to focus on the Office of the Attorney General has released something. So the last time we heard from him was on May 1st, when he addressed Ghanaians about the NIB Adubuahin and his accomplice. And now he says on 13th, this Friday, 13th June, he'll be briefing Ghanaians on major Operation Recover All Loots. And so we are looking forward to that at the Information Services Department. So we are looking forward to that.
Okay.
And also I'd like to touch briefly on the ongoing strike and all that. We've had other, people also threatening to go on strike and all that. And so I would like to touch on the fact that we have rules, we have laws, guiding all these people who provide essential services. At the National Labour Act 162 and 163, I would want to emphasize or retrace that the National Labour Commission should also be up and doing, so that they don't wait for things to go wayward before they step in. Like the issue with the Ghana National Registered and Midwives.
Yeah.
So the Act 162 states that whenever a dispute arises and all that, they have 3 days. If the organization writes to them, they have 3 days to actually resolve the issue. But here lies the case with what is happening. They refused to do that, and that has brought up all these, confusion and all that. So we are urging, and then we are telling them to do the needful, so that we've heard that the mortuary,
workers, we're going to speak on that.
Exactly. So,
but I would like to ask though, does this have anything to do with the fact that there has been a change in government? Because, like when we spoke with the General Secretary, the Regional Secretary on Tuesday, he mentioned the fact that they deal with the employer, which is maybe the ministry or something, and the ministry remains there regardless of the change in government. So, assuming, yes, now, like even in the dispensation we're in, where a new government has come in power, whatever pending jobs or pending procedures were supposed to be transferred to the next minister, they are there, so they are aware. And all these people were not exactly changed. There was not any serious reshuffle in the ministries that we would say that, okay, a new set of people have come to work and they have no idea about this. These are people who are already in the know about these things. So why is there some sort of delay in these things that now it seems as though the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association has sort of sparked or maybe helped other, because now we have the mortuary workers also wanting to meet with National Labour Commission about their plights. And these people have been, complaining since about 2019, 2020. And we even saw a documentary on their conditions that they work in. So what is happening?
So let me come in a little bit, Peter, if you don't mind. Concerning the should I say delay, it's not necessary change of government. So now, this particular issue is coming from the collective agreement that was actually agreed on in 2024, and its implementation should have followed suit. That is according to the president of the General
Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives.
So this particular thing was supposed to have been implemented quite earlier on, but it wasn't due to what the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission head, that's George Smith Graham. He actually came out yesterday and he said that the reason why there was a delay in its implementation was because of an internal dispute. So the internal dispute was caused by an interlocutory injunction being placed on their how do you call it, their conditions of service, which they were supposed to have brought out by earlier than the date stipulated, or earlier than they actually did bring that particular thing. So they brought it in late. That's according to what he is saying. And with that in mind, they weren't able to include that in the 2025 budget.
But considering the fact that their negotiations were already tabled into a document in 2024, are they trying to say they were not in the know of the fact that these are their demands?
The collective agreement was actually done. It's not only salaries, but also conditions of service, leave days, and all that. Everything had been structured, and then it was agreed upon in 2024. But when it comes to the cost implications and all that, it wasn't included in the 2025
and that's
budget.
where the question is.
So now the reason why they are on strike is that they don't care. They said, due to your budgetary constraints, that shouldn't disallow us from also performing our functions as we are supposed to. So irrespective of the fact that you are saying it's not included in budgets and all that, budgets, as they are saying, can run into deficits. And these are some of the things that can come and then run into deficits. So but then, you shouldn't actually say that because of this particular budgetary constraints, then you're not going to attend to our needs. So that is what they are saying.
Yes.
And then
I have one more question. They mentioned that they have tried engaging with the ministry and even the Ministry of Finance, but each time there's an excuse. So when some of us try to understand these nurses and midwives, it's as though, okay, go and come, and then they say, because I think they even mentioned the fact that they said, they'll be planning for the budget very soon, they will factor it in, so they should wait until after the budget has been read. And now it comes out that the budget has been read and there seems to be no mention of them.
So it depends on who you're actually attributing your grievances to. When you have grievances on pay and all these, you do not go to the Ministry of Finance to discuss with them directly. You go to the Labour Commission. You go to the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations. You go to the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. There's a tripartite meeting that is held, and everyone's concerns are actually taken into consideration. And then resolution is actually found or gained after deliberations. So that is what you are supposed to do, and that's the format. So if you then go and then engage in Ministry of Finance. It's as though you are just jumping.
Well, I mean, considering the interviews that you hear about, they mentioned that yes, they did engage with certain stakeholders. I may not have all the facts like offhand, but the point too also now remains that I think our minister also mentioned something along the lines of the fact that if they do meet their demands, it may destabilize the economy. But I want to ask all three of us here, when we draw our budgets for the month, don't you budget for miscellaneous costs, unforeseen expenditures and things? So why can't that
is to an extent, but when you look at the number of registered nurses and then the cost implications that the implementation of these conditions of service would actually have, that's what I'm saying, that budgets run into deficits. And we've already seen that this country, especially historically, has been running a lot of budget deficits by the end of the year when they're actually reviewing the budgets and all that. That's what we actually see that is being held. But this particular government, as we've also seen, is sort of not trying in as much as possible to do things within our means, because they claim that what they inherited wasn't the best for us. So these are like two situations that we actually have to balance. Remember that earlier on, Dr. Popo, with the president himself, that's the Minister for Labor and Employment Relations, he actually met with Labour, and the president was actually seated. That was the first time that a certain president was involved in negotiations. And they all agreed that there was going to be a 10% increment. But this, however, is beyond that 10% increment. This is stemming from last year, 2024. A collective agreement, that's how they call it, a collective agreement that had conditions of service embedded in there, a wage structure embedded in there for all registered nurses and midwives. This is what they had actually planned to execute this particular year. But then the failure to implement that into the budget, that is what is actually causing the main issue. But then today they said they are going to meet with the health parliamentary committee on health on this particular issue. So hopefully we'll hear.
But you know, let's go beyond the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. We are hearing about the mortuary workers. I don't know if you saw the bit about CTAG, TUTAG, and UTAG also demanding their, I think, research and academic allowance or something of the sort. And that is why I think even my question initially was quite general, that what is happening? Why is it that it seems all the things this government seems to have inherited has become a problem? Because all these allowances, all these wages, they are things that are usually factored in the budget and they're supposed to be paid. So why is it that all of a sudden, maybe how many months, 6 months into this administration, we're already getting people demanding their wages and allowances being paid? What exactly is the cause of all that? Is it that they want to restructure it and they are not telling us? Or because the mortuary workers have been complaining since 2019, right? According to what I saw. And for almost, 5 years, right? Nothing substantial has been done. And now it seems as though, to some people, they may say they are sort of striking against maybe this new government, we should give them time and the rest. But like the registered nurses said, they are not dealing with governments, they are dealing with employers. And like initially, even in my question, that the bodies were already there. They are also always there, regardless of the change of government. So what is happening?
Well, I would like to take us back small. The question you asked about why about the Ghana. So, like Nana said, they had internal issues which took them about 7 to 6 months before it could be resolved. And so the minister coming out to say it wasn't budgeted for, in a way, I'm not trying to defend it, but in a way I feel because of the misunderstanding internally with the group, that is why it wasn't considered. Beyond that, it shouldn't be an excuse though. And then the finance minister, 2 days ago, finance minister also came out to say, like Nana said, we have about 120,000 registered nurses. And so if they are to implement the agreed conditions of service, we are going to have in excess of over 2 billion. And then, we can't spend outside the budget. You get it? Even if they are going to find money, just find money to, implement these conditions, also, it is going to take time. And then we are already in the middle of like the year. And so 2026 is just at the corner.
Is it?
That's
so
what they're saying.
From now till
no,
2026, would you be happy?
The Ministry of Finance is actually saying, and the Finance Minister is saying that just bite the bullet. Let's wait to 2026. Then we implement it, and then we factor it, and then we make provisions towards it, and give budgetary allocation towards it.
And then we shouldn't all forget that,
But they are calling retired. Would they compensate them?
Is it voluntarily?
Okay. Well, finish with your point and let's go quickly into the online news.
Okay. So in the quest of resetting the economy, so it has been agreed that the country must maintain a 1.5% primary surplus every year in order to bring the debt level to, sustainable levels. And so, like the finance minister said, if they try to implement it, like excess of 2 billion, and then we are also looking for ways to, settle our debts and all that. That is why they just recent implement a levy, 8% levy. Like Nana said, it's hard, but then we just have to try to, accept certain things. But I'm not trying to justify that. Yes, we understand that the health workers, their conditions of services, like
it needs improvement.
It needs improvement, but at this critical point, Ghanaians, we are begging. We are all begging them. I saw a video yesterday. A lady was lamenting that her uncle, who is just 30 years, got married not like less than 3 years, suffered from asthma attack, and he died just because it's not fine. Ghanaians, we are begging.
And then also, the mortuary workers are also talking about
we are getting into that story.
But then, prior to even that, they've actually come to mention or come out to say that the number of bodies that they are actually recording in the morgues or the mortuaries right now are quite alarming since the nurses began their strike. So this is something. This is a matter of life and death.
So, ripple effect.
Yeah, but then what government or Labour is also looking at is the fact that should we also bat an eye or blink to this particular request, or actually give in to this particular request that they are asking for? It then sets a precedent, or it sets a slippery slope for all the other agencies that you mentioned, that this particular group wants this. Now research and how do you call it? Book allowance. They've actually been granted and all that. So it's very, very confusing.
The stakeholders will just do a cost benefits analysis, or how do they say it? Economic people. Is it risky? Something. So, they do an analysis and then take a decision. So let's go. Now, mortuary workers are set to meet Labour Commission today over poor working conditions. So the Mortuary Workers Association of Ghana is scheduled to meet the National Labour Commission today. Okay, no, that was yesterday. So they were set to meet them yesterday in an effort to resolve long-standing grievances over poor working conditions. Now, for years, MOAG members have raised concerns about low wages, inadequate personal protective equipment, which is PPEs, and unsafe work environments. These issues dating as far back as 2019 and 2020. Now, the meeting will bring together key stakeholders, including the Ministry of Health, teaching hospitals, and the Ghana Health Service, to deliberate on a possible resolution. Now, speaking ahead of the meeting, MOAG's General Secretary, Richard Kofi Jordan, expressed cautious optimism but voiced frustration over the lack of progress in the previous engagements, and he lamented that the numerous meetings in the past have yielded no tangible results and warned that discussions without action serve no purpose. Jordan has urged authorities to take decisive steps in this time to address the pressing welfare issues confronting mortuary workers nationwide. At least they are not on strike, but...
No, but then they are threatening that they would. And this particular thing, I remember sometime last year we even came to talk about it. On 26th September 2024, last year, these same mortuary workers planned to go on strike. they were called for negotiations. That come, sit down, let's talk, let's discuss. What are your working conditions that you'd want us to do? Some even went as far as saying that we need gloves to put our hands in and all that. They were part of the discussions that they had. And some of these risk allowance, because the type that when human bodies, when they are in decadence, and the kind of illness or ailments that they also attract. So when that actually happened, the negotiations were hard and all that, and governments were happy because the strike didn't go on as planned. Fast forward November 28 in an election year, 2024. Then again, the implementation for what they had agreed on was not being adhered to, or was not being so they actually planned, they said that they were going to go on strike again. That's in November 2028. And government once again came, it's getting to election, don't worry, we'll talk about this. Sit down, let's relax. And now, up to now, they've not talked about it, they've not implemented anything. It looks as though they are being taken for a ride. And these are people that offer essential services when it comes to the country. If mortuary workers are not in the hospital for even a day, the kind of rot and the kind of confusion that is going to cause in the system is something that is not going to be it's not something that we can actually look at and then say that this is in good standing and all that. So, Peter,
yes,
remember that in November 2028, there was a Thursday, and that's 28 November, these same people came out, and we sat here and we talked about it. And then the government gave assurance that they were going to adhere or listen to their grievances and concerns. But up to now, nothing of that sort has been done.
So this is where I still come in with the national labor issue. Now that they've written to them that they want to meet them, they don't have to wait, try to like this, like you rightly said, like tossing them up and down, we will do this, we do that, and then you don't like walk the talk. So they shouldn't wait, they should put the right measures in place to avert, strike action, like you rightly said. Should they go on strike right now, in addition to what is already transpiring, it will be a disaster in this country.
Yeah, and for the fact that sometimes when they don't exactly adhere to some of these demands, or they make the promises and they don't fulfill, then they try to appeal to their humanity. At some point, it becomes, dare I say, manipulative.
It is manipulative. When you're appealing to someone's emotions and you're appealing to their...
very well, these are
knowing very well that you have your
part
to play, and then you've not done it. And then you're telling me that even just mere gloves to wear to protect myself from all these ailments that human decadence causes. Then you are not providing it. Then
when you finish, then you're telling them, think about their people and think about their welfare. What about their welfare?
Have you been to the mortuary before?
I wouldn't try.
So if you
I saw the documentary.
I have been there before, and then even in that particular state where the human body is transitioning almost to the burial or to the grave, in that particular state, the kind of respect that these mortuary men actually give to the human bodies, the kind of respect that they treat these human bodies with, if they are not there, it's going to be a serious problem. From embalming the bodies and all that, these people are actually do very good work.
Scientifically, apparently, when the human life is taken, the body starts to decay. And
almost immediately.
When we say decaying, what does that even mean? Look at all these bacteria and things, the body is transitioning into something else, which as a corpse, I mean, even animals don't tend to go near corpses or dead food. So sometimes even some use that as a survival mechanism, play dead. So if a human body, in the state in which it is transitioning into become probably Earth again, and some people have taken this up, that this is a job they want to do, and they have become very instrumental in our society, that if we don't have people tending to corpses for us to bury, what is the state of the nation going to be like? Because imagine, let's say we have bodies scattered all over, or even look at these war zones, how people die and then the bodies are just all over the place. Imagine the disease pathogens and things that are going to be from airborne, waterborne contact, all kinds of diseases. And these people are risking their lives daily. So if some people like this go on strike or they are demanding, these people should be given some sort of priority. Or don't you think?
It is. It is. Because considering, like Nana said, considering their working environment, I've not been to mortuary before, but for the videos I've seen, it's very bad. It's very bad. And then they are, as part of what they are seeking for, they are also seeking for financial clearance to, employ additional 500, In, like right now, their work seem not, I don't know if I'm right, seem not attractive that people would want to even, get into it. So we are appealing to government.
Because all these people, just like the human body, every part plays a role.
You just put a human, no human, just put meat that you buy from town,
right?
And then just put it down, and then just forget to put it in the fridge or something, and just come the following day and see how
even the smell alone. So imagine, and these people have died from various diseases. We don't even know how many of them are transmissible by even just contact with them.
Forget about that.
That's why they need.
Let's also talk about the trauma, the psychological trauma
Exactly.
of seeing people die every time. That alone should attract extra allowances and all that. But these people are not being catered for. So this is a passionate appeal to those at the helms of power, at the helms of authority that can actually adhere to these people. What they are seeking for is not something that will break or crash the national budget. It's something that is feasible and is easily done. Just give them better working conditions. They are looking for globes. They are looking for enhanced salaries. They are looking for dignity to come with their work. Because very soon, it's okay. Let me not talk about.
And I think I would like to discourage people from making public statements such as these people are pampered and things like that. If these people stop their jobs, we will all be found wanting. Because if they come and carry me to work there, I will sit down and cry because I have no idea what I'm going to. And even afraid of the cops. But these people have, taken this, have gone through the training. So let us not try to discourage them or make them feel as though they are demanding too much. If you were in their shoes, you would probably demand more.
If you have some extra time for online news, let me just touch on.
We have a pretty long video coming up, so we have to. So maybe if we get more time after, so if we finish it up
but
quickly.
But the video could be summarized, right?
Let's see how that works. So the second story here says the new data bundles announced by Sam George effective July 1. So the Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, Samuel Nati George MP, has announced modifications to data bundle packages provided by major telecommunications companies in Ghana, set to take effect on July 1, 2025. I was going to say by. Now, during a press briefing at the Ministry's complex in Accra on June 10, 2025, the announcement was made following extensive discussions with the CEOs of AT Ghana, Telecel Ghana Limited, and Scancom Ghana Limited, which is MTN Ghana. The aim was to enhance value for consumers in Ghana while addressing operational challenges within the telecom sector. In his speech, Honorable Sam George detailed specific changes to data bundle offerings from the three major operators for MTN Ghana, which has significant market power status. Prices for all currently available data bundles will increase by 15%. And we have a video, I think, which would be his speech about the data bundles being increased. Somebody said they hope that the bundles will not finish like smoke.
So there's this. What actually triggered this or hastened this particular conversation was a tweet by a certain young man called Atongo Frafra, who actually called out the Honorable Minister for Communications that when you were in opposition, you had a lot of ideas about how data tariffs were high, the hiked data tariffs and all that. But you have been given power. And then within 6 months, there's nothing being done about the data tariffs. And then when we speak to you, we are not saying anything, or you are not talking about anything that is in return. There is no communication back to us. It looks as though now you are seated on your high horse and you don't know how the grass itches our feet when we are walking on them. And later on, he actually DM'd that same guy and told him that, don't worry, we are cooking something very, very interesting, very delicious.
Okay, so we have the video coming up very shortly soon.
It is an attempt to create a false narrative, not based on facts, but built on distortions and aimed at disseminating disinformation. But let me state, that scheme has failed. I've been at post for 4 months and have set to work vigorously in collaboration with the regulator, the CEOs, and other stakeholders to fashion a clear roadmap for the systemic resolution of the challenges we inherited. I'm not interested in cosmetic fixes that merely paper over the deep cracks and create an illusion of resolution only to push the can further down the road. I have learned from the former communications minister and now president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to embrace the challenges I am faced with, diagnose it rightly, and work towards a lasting solution. In my first month as minister, I established a 23-member data pricing review committee with a clear 14-day mandate to develop a roadmap for implementation. The committee, in its report, distinguished the 3 areas that we believe need to be addressed for a holistic resolution of the matter: value, pricing, and quality. I referred the report to the regulator and tasked them with crafting regulatory policies that addressed the challenges in the sector. In my second month, the regulator, after engaging with the mobile network operators, came up with proposals that curated specialized bundle solutions for tertiary students and content creators. We immediately set out to build a dynamic database for the 2 demographics. I held a meeting with all vice-chancellors in the country to design a framework that allowed the networks to identify which numbers were used by tertiary students. However, I took a policy decision to truncate the process and re-engage the stakeholders to achieve a broader solution that affected all Ghanaian data users. In my 3rd month, this engagement led to a focus on the structural challenges that the networks were facing in delivering their services. As indicated earlier, we had our eyes not just on the value and pricing of data bundles, but on the quality of service delivery. I am sure that even with increased value or reduced pricing, if quality is not improved, we will still have a sour customer experience. This led to the regulator commissioning and completing an assessment of a sample size of network performance in 3G and 4G service offerings across the country, the results of which I discussed with the CEOs and the media 2 weeks ago. In my 4th month, armed with a clear picture of where we are as a sector, I tasked the CEOs to work with me to improve the quality of service and to offer enhanced data bundles. Now, let me be clear. My mandate as minister in a free market economy does not extend to interfering in the pricing by private sector investors. Just like the Minister for Trade does not have the power to direct GUTA members to drop their prices unilaterally, the Communications Minister cannot unilaterally direct price reductions. The immediate retort will be, and I am expecting it, but you accused your predecessor of being responsible for price increases. Yes, I did. The SMP toolkit is replete with several policy directions that are not direct price directives, but cumulatively have an effect on pricing. So a decision, for example, that was taken by my predecessor to have CST collected forward would, for example, result in a pricing increase. So it was not a price directive, it was a policy directive that affects pricing. Another example will be the decision to declare MTN as an SMP and implement tariff rationalization, which resulted in an effective price increase by the operator, which the customers bore. However, these actions were not adequately and properly implemented, and they led to a situation where the SMP has grown by over 10% in market share, accompanied by quality of service issues due to the network configuration and congestion. To address the quality of service issues, I presented a memorandum to the Cabinet of Ghana aimed at making spectrum available to Mrs. Scancom Ghana Limited and Ghana Telecommunication Company Limited. The process of the spectrum sale is scheduled to be completed by the end of the first week in July. In the case of Ghana Telecommunications Company Limited, known as Telecel, I have given additional policy approval for the regulator to grant a connecting entity license, enabling the operator to optimize service using the 2100 MHz spectrum at the disposal of NGIC. This should result in a significant improvement in the quality of service and customer experience in the coming weeks. I want to reiterate my commitment to an engagement-led style of leadership that involves all my stakeholders, listens to their challenges, and works to address them in a manner that benefits the entire ecosystem. We need intense competition in the sector, but it must be healthy and sustainable. I am committed to value-added data bundle offerings, and most importantly, these policy actions will culminate in price reductions in the medium to long term. However, the recovery from 8 years of mismanagement cannot be completed in 4 months. To this end, I have mandated that all operators make critical investments in their networks to improve quality over the next quarter. That is from July.
Right. So that was our minister, and I'm sure the video is up on our various social media, so you can watch the full thing. So, my co-host, I want to ask, the pricing, does it affect our, 55 CD data, or is just the big 214 gig?
So basically, what he mentioned, I'm sure if the video goes on, you'd actually tell that before mentioning certain specific bundles, he said there was a 10% increment across all board when it comes to Telecel and 80. So 10% increment in data bundle prices. So let's say, not prices, but let's say the data bundles themselves. Let's say if if 5 CDs was giving you 10 gig or 100 gig, that is, or 10 gig, that is, now 5 CDs is going to give you the same 5 CDs is going to give you 11 gig. That's an extra 10% on your previous bundle. And when it comes to MTN, that's Stancom Ghana, and that was 15% increment across all data bundles. That's what MTN actually are going for. And he's saying that apart from that, he mentioned the different bundle types. So 15 MTN, instead of you getting, when you pay 5 CDs for 10 gig, now you're going to pay 5 CDs for 11.5 gig. That's what he's actually saying. That's the increment. And now he came and then he said that with 80 Ghana, that is the 400 Ghana CD bundle that you were actually purchasing has now moved from 195 gigabytes to 236 gigabytes. Now, with Telecel Ghana, the 400 Ghana CD bundle that you used to purchase was 90 gig. Now, 400 CDs, it was 90 gig.
For 90 gig.
But then now it's 250 gigabytes. So that's like a very significant jump.
It's getting to value for money.
Yes, and then there's also 15%. And MTN was 399. That's 1 CD short of 400, and was offering 214 gigabytes previously. It's now offering 214 gigabytes, but previously it was 350 for 92.88 gigabytes.
Hey.
So you realize that the bundle price increment is actually quite significant, almost over 100% when it comes to 80 Telecel Ghana and then MTN. These are the two bundle pricing that they've done. Another thing that he was actually mentioning that we just truncated a video before he talked about that, that he's given an ultimatum to all the service providers that up to July, he wants to see significant increase in the quality of their services.
Yes, I was even going to ask about that.
So you can have quantity and then not have quality. Let's say you can have, let's say, this particular increment and then be on edge throughout. When
there's 5G, when you're still on edge.
Exactly. So that's what he's actually saying. And then he's also directed sanctions at some of them that do not have the requisite service to support Ghanaian businesses and workers. because you realize that now people are going and opting for Starlink, are opting for other things. Meanwhile, these businesses are in Ghana that should actually thrive and make businesses also move on when it comes to the quality of internet. And I must confess, the quality of internet when it comes to certain networks, it's quite
it is abysmal.
That is a word that you can actually really associate with their speed and performance. It's not the best. So with this, let's hope and see whether the sanctions would actually apply. And looking at him and looking at how he's broken down the steps of what he has done since he came into power concerning he came into authority concerning the data bundle pricing and all that, then this is something that we can say that he's going to actually enforce if they should not adhere to the quality.
Yeah. So based still on the quality, so I'm much particular about the network quality and coverage. So in as much as we are all looking for affordable data, I think government should also look at other alternatives by helping to cut down the cost of these telecoms, their operational costs, in order to help them, come up with the quality is what we are looking for. You get it? So they can consider infrastructure investment and then tax incentives to cut down their costs so that they can also give us the quality of service we are looking for. Right now, that there's a change in value but not price. We are not thinking about the operational cost of these telecoms.
Yeah.
You get it? So if you're able to give them tax incentives and then invest in their infrastructure, it'll actually cut down costs for them and then they'll give us the best what we are looking for. So as we are thinking of this one too, they should also think about.
I think that's a very good shout. That's a brilliant one. But he's also mentioned that that's with the tax incentives. He's also mentioned about the CST, that is the communication service tax, having been brought forward instead of paying it like initially the way they were doing it. So if they do it that way, they are able to incur more, or they are going to incur extra that's operational costs. But if it's brought forward, then that means they are supposed to, or it's going to reduce their cost burden. I think that the terminologies that we would have to get that right. But he's actually talked about some tax incentives for them, and he talked about some of the mistakes or the things that he saw as mistakes when the previous government or that his predecessor was in authority. And these are things that he's mentioned. And let's hope that these things will just come to the fore and come quickly. Another thing to talk about is whether the telcos were actually just milking Ghanaians.
Yes, they should be audited so that we know their operational costs. Yes, then we can have mercy on them, because the kind of, if we are buying all this data and, as you were saying, that it could last you for a year, and maybe based on the quality of the network, it is lasting for just 6 months. There's no longer value for money. So these things need to be put in place, as you're saying. And it's a very valid point you're making, and I hope that our minister and the telcos also adhere to this. And this brings us to the end of the segment. Thank you so much for joining me here. Next is the lifestyle segment. We'll be celebrating fatherhood. So celebrate your father.
So get
In a world where neutrality in the civil service is paramount, Ghana finds itself at a crossroad.
CLOSAG says that a certain action should be taken, but government has to act on the basis of law. So we inquired as to what the premise for that demand is.
They say if you wish to broadcast or otherwise manifest your political allegiance or run political office, step away from the services. This is Supreme Court talking. It's not CLOSAG speaking or Isaac Wampado speaking. This is the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court judgment on the landmark case of CLOSAG versus the Attorney General has set the stage for a profound transformation. Introducing Resetting the Civil Service. Tune in to be part of this change, because a better civil service means a better Ghana.
I find it refreshing always when I remind myself of the profound statement by the eminent civil servant, the Anankwa of blessed memory, to the effect that it is the perfection of the civil servant that will move this country forward, and not the politician.
To provide a robust platform for in-depth discussions surrounding employment relations, the rights of workers, the quest for industrial harmony, and evolving landscape of work. Walatu Walasa seeks to bring to bear Walasa.
This is how we do. M-I-M-I, Devilish, aka
Into the heart of entertainment. Let's Talk Stuff, where we explore the latest trends in the entertainment industry. From viral moments to hottest celebrity stars, we've got you covered. Have questions? We want to hear from you. Your voice matters. Let's vibe together. I got a secret. Do you want to hear it? You're always on my mind.
for Mimi Abna Adede. Today I have with me two people that I would call rivals when it comes to football in terms, but then now that we are here and we are all celebrating fatherhood in the spirit of fathering, so now they are actually my friends. So I have with me Dr. Samuel Intim, who is a filmmaker, and then also I have Emmanuel Ejakomenta, a lawyer. Guys, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having us.
Okay.
So much.
So happy potential Father's Day, and happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day to you as well.
Thank you. So I don't know where we should start. Maybe I'll just attack the Liverpool fan because they actually stole the trophy from me this past season. What does fatherhood mean to you?
I think to me, fatherhood represents the institution of leadership. I think when we think of a father, the first thing that comes to mind for most people is the leader of the house, like the muscle of the house, somebody who you can depend on, somebody who you can lean on. You know, back then when we were young kids and we were in school, when somebody says, "I'll go and tell my father," that means that yes, you're in trouble. Yes. Yeah. So I think that's mostly the institution of fatherhood. That's what it really represents to me, and I think to a lot of people. Leadership, somebody that you can depend on, like your solid foundation. Yeah.
And someone that can also put you right on track.
Because
you cannot talk about fatherhood without talking about the kings and the lashes.
Yes.
I mean, that's how conventional fatherhood is. I want to find out whether you share the same sentiments.
Yes, I believe in the same thing as well. And also with the leadership, you have to lead by example. Because you cannot be telling your child, "Oh, do this thing this way," and then you'll be doing a different thing altogether. I remember in school, you see some teachers that will be doing something else, but then they'll be teaching something else to you. And you cannot find the balance in there. So the leadership has to be by example. You live what you preach to the kids.
You live what you preach to the kids. And I want to find out, because recently, or quite recently, just about 11 months ago, you became officially a father. How has that journey been?
It's been amazing. I mean, being a father comes with a whole new, I would say, feeling altogether. But it comes with its own blessing. The very moment that you hold your baby and then you look at those tiny feet, those tiny hands, you realize that this is God's doing. And you see that there's a sense of responsibility. And it's no longer about you anymore. You realize that there's a sense of responsibility and you are forced to protect, nurture, and guide this gift that God has given to you. And you cannot do that alone. You just have to ask God to help you to go through this journey.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
well, I think you're doing a very good job at that, because I saw the expression on your face when I actually said 11 months ago, and you're talking about the tiny feet and all that. But people say the journey of fatherhood begins before that. It begins during even pregnancy. So I want to since you have actually been in that particular, like just elaborate the beginning of that particular journey for us.
Yes, it begins first. I would say it even begins after marriage, because your wife is with her father, with her parents, and then you go and you bring your wife to you. So from that moment, you become, during the ceremony, the father hands over the wife to the husband. And I think that's symbolic, because the father is telling you, you're taking up my role. So as a husband, you're a husband to her and also a father to her. So it begins after marriage, and during pregnancy, if she was already doing some house chores, you're not going to say that, "Oh, you're pregnant, still go ahead and do this." You have to be there to support your wife. Where you have to cook, and where you have to cook, you have to cook. If she's not feeling well and then you have to do something for her, even if you have to bathe her, just do that, because it's part of the process. And finally, when the baby is in, you have to change the diapers. You have to be in the life. You have to be supportive. It's not just about watching Man U lose and then be there.
To actually,
you know,
Manchester United lose frequently.
Not just about watching Man U lose frequently, and then you watch your wife doing all the job. No, you also have to change the diapers. You also have to sing to the baby and be in the life of the child from that infant stage.
Yeah. So Mr. Jacomenta, you are not a father yet when it comes to kids of your own, but then by just being a man, you're a father figure. So how is that particular responsibility also coming in with you as well?
I think the is more like a shared responsibility, like you're saying. Once you are a man, you are born a man, and you grow up, you end up being a father figure to somebody. Nieces, nephews, all of them will see you like a father, and so it goes back to the initial point that I think I made, that you have to prepare yourself for the role, even if you are not directly the father of one child. You have to always put yourself in the position of being responsible and also being able to impact responsibility on your nieces, your nephews, other children that look up to you. So for the only nice thing about if it's not directly your child is, yes, once you can do it for a short while and other way. But obviously it's still something that you would have to try and mold yourself into that role. I don't think fatherhood is something that you will become. It's something that you have to learn to take on that responsibility, ascribe to that responsibility. So just as you see your father and you try and learn from your father and maybe even some uncles that you admire, you must also try and be that person to other people, other younger ones who you find around you.
So you just talked about people that you admire and seeing people do it. So I just want to take you down a trip down memory lane, and what as you grow older, you get to realize that this is the importance of a father. This particular thing my father did and actually helped me. Let me take you down. Any specific moment, I'm not going personal, any specific moments that you've had previously that you've shared with your father, or maybe any moments that a father figure has actually played in your life that you think this has actually shaped my life in a positive way?
I think for me, I've had a lot of moments like that directly with my father.
Which one stands out?
I think the one that really stands out is in relation to my education. So I remember my father coming to my room the night before I was going to university as an undergrad, talking to me about what I need to do, how I need to take life serious, and basically explained to me that you are becoming a man now. So the things you used to do, or let's say, as even the Bible says, the childish things you used to do, you need to put them away and now take on a role of responsibility. And I will confess, the talk I had with my dad that evening really shaped my thoughts, it really shaped my life. And even as much as I have very fond memories with my dad and even some of my uncles, I think that particular moment, that particular night, that conversation I had with my father really impacted.
I just really wish that he had actually put somewhere in there that that club they call Liverpool. You just leave it behind. But let me come to you, Dr. Intim. Is there any particular? I know now you're a father, so definitely there are things that are actually stuck to memory now. But in your upbringing, any particular moment that has shaped your morals, that has shaped your upbringing when it comes to your life with your father?
Yes, definitely. My dad is late, but I have father figures in my life that have really supported me and has made me who I am today. My uncles, right? I would say, and my bishop, who is also my uncle, Bishop Enonike. So when I talked about leadership by example, he's someone that I would say embodies the leadership by example role. So he's someone who is a man of many talents, right? So it has made me know that I don't have to stick to one thing. Here I am, a medical doctor, right? And I'm also into the arts. I'm into filmmaking.
Yeah.
I do photography. I can virtually do anything, right? All I have to do is learn. And I am able to strive to learn something new. A year does not go by that I don't learn something new. But I always tell my wife that, okay, this year we're going to learn this new thing, because we are not going to be the same in 2023 that we are in 2024 and 2025. That means we are not adding any value to ourselves. So, and that's something that I learned from him. So that's really shaped me a lot.
So definitely we are seeing that a lot of value addition when it comes to that. But now it looks as though the role of the father in is not overtly seen as the role of the mother. So a lot of the times when we look at the celebration of Mother's Day, it's not a competition, but it actually overshadows the Father's Day, and it looks as though the role of the father is always maybe not swept under the carpet, but it's downplayed, and its importance downplayed than that of the mothers. Do you think society is being imbalanced when it comes to that, or would you actually say that yes, it's true that the mothers play a more important role than fathers?
Personally, I think the comparison is a bit unfair, because traditionally the fathers and mothers play different roles. Like you mentioned, and like we've mentioned already, we normally see our fathers as the leader of the house and like the disciplinarian of the house. It's very easy to not like the person who kills you a lot than like the person who gives you more meat on your food. Yes. So I think it's quite unfortunate, but it's for the role that fathers used to play traditionally, you are less likely to be I don't want to use the word loved, but you are less likely to have some form of emotional attachment to your father. And I think even previously it was very worse when the role of a father was just confined to going to work, come home, pay the bills. You realize that fathers didn't have a lot of emotional attachment to their kids, but mothers were the ones always home. They watch the TV shows with the children, they stay with them, they know, help them do their homework, they do all those things. So mothers had more me time with the children than fathers. So I think that is what reflected in the celebration of Mother's Day being more out there than fathers. But I think the role that fathers play is very critical. I'm glad that now there seems to be more effort into celebrating Father's Day. Like I think I've said, I'm not a father yet. Hopefully I will be soon. But even when I have to even deal with some of my nieces and nephews, sometimes like I know I cannot do this. You get a call from maybe one of your cousins. The girl is celebrating her birthday. Like, okay, let me get her a cake. She tells, cousins. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, wow. So if I'm a father, this is something you have to be doing constantly. And this is aside the bills and everything. So I get why people would celebrate Mother's Day, but previously, I think it stems from the societal orientation fathers have with what mothers have. But I'm happy that now people are beginning to celebrate fathers more. Actually, fathers are also now beginning to have more emotional bonds and try to have a lot of me time, like I said.
So that brings me to my next question to you, Doctor. Do you think that the role of fathers has evolved over time, and now there are actually maybe new or different roles to the fathers play? Because now we have stay-at-home dads and all that. So how would you say the role of fatherhood has evolved?
Like you said, traditionally it has been go to work and then come home, put down your money, and but now it's much bigger. Fathers are present now. For instance, I change diapers. I bathe my daughter. I take her to school. Things are different. It's no longer, I'm going to work, so you do all the job. And I think you see fathers now going to PTA meetings And I even saw one macho man on social media with his daughter, I think daughter or son, at the back.
Behind his back.
Yeah, behind his back, and he was washing dishes or something. Macho man, you see muscles. So things have really evolved now, and we thank God. I think it's better this way, because you cannot always be the disciplinarian and then be tagged as the wicked one. You know, the child goes and be like, my dad was lashing me, my dad used to cane me.
Yeah.
No, but now it's getting better. It's getting better, and the recognition is also shown.
So this might be a personal thing, but council, how do you show affection to let's say child figures in your life? How do you show this kind of affection? Probably your nephews, nieces, or maybe people that you're not even related to. How do you show this particular kind of affection, like in practical sense? How do you relate to them, like normal?
Fortunately, I think I have a very good relationship with my nieces and nephews. Luckily, most of us attend the same church.
Oh, okay.
Like I also every Sunday, Liberty Church.
Oh, okay.
In Bawa.
Okay.
Yes. So we attend the same church. So every Sunday, there's even one Jackson. Once he gets into church Sunday, he's running towards me, carrying me. He's like, he just wants me to carry. But you try and be there for them, try and be nice to them, try and also find a nice way of letting them know that you can't do this, you can do this. You can't always be the fun uncle. Sometimes you also have to let them know that what they are doing is right and what they are doing is wrong. It also helps their parents if the uncle is also in that regard, disciplining the child. So it's something I try to do anytime. Luckily for me, I see them every Sunday. So at least every week I have some form of interaction with them. If it's, of course, uncle treats, some nice yogurt I can buy for you after church or something, yes, we'll do it. And
I think I'm going to come to the Liberty Church and then enjoy the treats as well. So I want to find out what values, you being a father, I know your daughter is just 11 months old, and what values would you say are the most important that you are going to imbibe in her?
I would say the fear of God. Right, the fear of God. I think the fear of God encompasses everything. When you look at the story of Joseph, he was able to thrive in anywhere he was put because he had the fear of the Lord in him, and it kept him going. So I will put in my kids the fear of the Lord. Like the Bible says, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. When it says this is the whole duty of man, that means we are here to fear God. And when you fear God, you are not going to hurt your neighbor. When you fear God, you are not going to steal. When you fear God, you're going to keep his commandments. So that's one thing that I would put, just like my parents instilled in me, I will instill in my daughter and my other kids. The fear of the Lord.
Perfect. I think you couldn't have said it any better.
Yes.
Same question.
Yes, I think that's basically it, because once you have the fear of the Lord, certain characteristics are going to be ascribed to you. So it involves to kindness, it involves to having personal integrity, which I believe is very important. Having integrity, being an accountable person, being a kind person, being a loving person, and also a forgiving person to other members in society. I think that's what society really needs. We need people with integrity. We need people who are also kind, and we need people who can also be accountable for their actions. If everybody has integrity, if everybody is honest, if everybody is kind, I think society will be in a much better place than we actually find. And the best way we can get to that is by fathers imbibing these values into their children. So it's certainly something that, just like he said, I would want to imbibe into my children.
So then let me come to this, because as you mentioned earlier, that fathers are the ones that are, when growing up, when your friend tells you that I'm going to tell my father, you know that Charlie is a neighbor. So what are some of the misconceptions that has been actually attributed to fathers or the father figure? I for one can say that the father is the one that does not smile in the house. That's what a lot of people actually say. So what are some of the misconceptions? Because we want to actually use this particular platform and then your voice to sort of squash these misconceptions.
I think the very common misconception people have is that fathers are not. It's like once somebody becomes a father, we don't view them as an emotional being. We do not think that they have emotions.
But why is that so?
I think, like we said, traditionally, every father, or let me say, every boy has grown up knowing that. I mean, we say that local parents, so you cannot show any form of emotion. Anything that happens to you, which is weakness, you have to keep it in. And you find that a lot of fathers grow up, and a lot of fathers have high BP because they've internalized a lot so much. They can't complain. They can't complain to their wives because it looks like weakness. They can't even also complain to their friends because sometimes they also look like you also don't want to show other people that you're a weak figure. And I think much of that is certainly not true. As a human being, you also have emotions. You also respond well to appreciation. If your children appreciate you well, it's something you respond very well to. So I think generally going to the core of it, fathers can also be emotional beings. And just as we also try and show love to our mothers, we should also make it an effort to also show love to our fathers. They both perform different roles, and they both deserve our love and support.
So, Doc, it's been said that the hardest guys are the softest fathers. So, with that, are there any other misconceptions that you actually want to bring to bear?
I think the misconception that fathers are distant, right? Most of the time, it's like the fathers don't take care of their family. They run away because they are scared. But a few bad nuts does not mean that the whole group is bad. Right? There are a few bad nuts here and there, but fathers are not distant. Fathers are heavily present in the lives of their families and trying to push, lead by example, nurture the children to become what they have to become.
Okay, so I know that you just in your submissions earlier on you mentioned about Liberty Church. You also talked about your bishop as being a father figure, and I know you're doing something this particular weekend, right, for fathers.
Yes.
So I want you to talk about that. Just take your time and talk about that.
Yeah. So on Sunday we're having a mega Father's Day service where we will be. The service will be hosted by all men. Everything will be done by men. So from singing to preaching to ushering to videography, photography, everything is going to be handled by the men.
So we are going to take a back seat.
Yes, the women are going to take a back seat, put on the seatbelts, and then relax and enjoy the ride. And we'll be honoring our fathers at Liberty Church. By the way, it will be a mega service, a wonderful one. It will be chaired by our bishop, Bishop Inimike, who will oversee this wonderful program.
It's quite interesting that both of you attend the same church. So what role will you be playing?
For me, I will, on Sunday, I'm going to take on the role of an usher. So when you come in, I'm going to.
But see, I thought maybe you sing.
We'll get the singers. We'll get the singers. We'll be at the back. Let's start to sing. We'll be at the back and sing with them. But yes, I think that's the problem.
But what role would you be playing in the service?
So I will still be with the media team. Be the camera guy, trying to tell the story, capturing the moment, the beautiful moment that will be going on. And when it's time for singing, I'll be at the back, giving some backing vocals. Backing vocals.
Okay, so all too soon, I've actually enjoyed this particular conversation. I've enjoyed quite a lot of insights. I want you to actually round up with some messages that you'd want to actually give out to father figures and all that. We are celebrating fathers this weekend. So any message at all that you want to give to any father figure? I'll start with you, Counsel.
Okay, I think the first message will be to my dad, Mr. Jacob Minta. I always say he's my He's my hero and he's my friend.
Is he a lawyer as well?
Oh, no, he's not, yes. But he encouraged me to be a lawyer, yes. And it was one of the decisions, encouragement that I'm very grateful for. Obviously, my bishop, Edime Ketia, who has also been a father figure spiritually for me while I was growing up. My uncles, I have a lot of uncles who have been father figures. Uncle Richard, who celebrated his birthday just yesterday, he's been a wonderful father figure of Akujo, of Akwesi, of Kofi. I mean, when I mention the names, they know themselves, but they've been wonderful father figures to me, my Uncle Theo. So, yes, they've all played diverse roles in my life, and I really appreciate them, and I really thank God for their life, and I pray that as life goes on, they begin to enjoy the fruit of the father figureship that they've been in my life, and God will continue to bless them and give them the energy to continue to perform as they have been over the years.
Rightly said. Dr. Intim.
Yes, sir. I would love to wish my uncles happy Father's Day. And my dad, so late, happy Father's Day to him. So my uncle is Commodore Enim, Bishop Enim Ketia, Daddy Ben, Mr. Felix Anoinim. I want to wish all of them happy Father's Day. And to every father out there, I would say happy Father's Day to you. It's not easy. And happy Father's Day to myself as well.
It's not quite easy. I actually saw this particular quote. Let me end with this particular one. That before a young man will be called a responsible person, then he remains small, he will die. So that's how we round up lifestyle segment. It's been a pleasure having Dr. Intim and then lawyer, counsel Ejaku Menta with me here on the lifestyle segment. Today, I sat in for Miriam Abnadede, who we'll get into the details why she's not here, but this is how we call it a wrap. Up next is sports. Macho Man Benedict Nketia Prating is on standby to help us with that. Don't go anywhere, stick and stay.
Where neutrality in the civil service is paramount, Ghana finds itself at a crossroad.
CLOSAG says that a certain action should be taken, but government has to act on the basis of law. So we inquired as to what the premise for that demand is.
They say if you wish to broadcast or otherwise manifest your political allegiance or run political office, step away from the services. This is Supreme Court talking. It's not CLOSAG speaking or Isaac Bampado speaking. This is the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court judgment on the landmark case of Koko versus the Attorney General has set the stage for a profound transformation. Introducing Resetting the Civil Service. Tune in to be part of this change, because a better civil service means better Ghana.
I find it refreshing always when I remind myself of the profound statement by the eminent civil servant, Lieutenant Anankwa of blessed memory, to the effect that it is the perfection of the civil servant that will move this country forward, and not the politician.
They say is the backbone for national development, playing a vital role in shaping economic growth, fostering social stability, and enhancing overall productivity. As the workforce undergoes continuous transformation, it is crucial to not only educate but also to actively engage all stakeholders in meaningful discussions on labor policies, workers' rights, and current labor trends. In responding to these pressing needs, Clock TV introduces Walatu Walasa, a dynamic and engaging program dedicated exclusively to exploring the multifold realms of labor issues. This innovative program aims to provide a robust platform for in-depth discussions surrounding employment relations, the rights of workers, the quest for industrial harmony, and evolving landscape of work. Walatu Walasa seeks to bring to bear the challenges and opportunities facing the labor force today, making a significant contribution to public discourse. My name is Edmond Akwe, your host of Walatu Walasa.
Yes, it's time for sports, and I'm doing this today with Benedict Nketiah-Kwarteng. Benedict, take us away.
Thank you very much. A very good morning to our viewers once again. My name is Benedict Nketiah-Kwarteng, and today we are here to discuss sports over the week. We are here to bring you, as usual, the best. We are covering all the action, both international and local, so stay tuned as we ride through the sports segment. Now to the headlines. GFA Congress set for August 12 in Pram Pram. GFA sanctions Nations FC, awards victory to Basake Holy Stars. Ancelotti earns first win as Brazil book World Cup spot. And Man City announced the signing of Rangers from AC Milan. Now to the main story. The Ghana Football Association will hold its 31st Ordinary Congress on August 12, 2025 at the Ghana Man Center of Excellence in Pram Pram. This annual meeting, mandated by GFA statutes, will bring together delegates to discuss key issues and plan for the future of Ghanaian football. Members will receive a detailed agenda and reports at least a week before the event. The GFA Disciplinary Committee has penalized Nations FC for abandoning their match against Basake Holy Stars. The club has been fined 2,500 cedis, with half going to Holy Stars and half going to the GFA. Nations FC also forfeits the match, resulting in a 3-0 loss and a 3-point deduction. The committee is investigating match officials, and all parties have the right to appeal. This decision comes after a dramatic season finale that saw the BN Gold Stars win the Premier League title. Now to our international sports news. Carlo Ancelotti. Brazil sealed their spot in the 2026 World Cup with a narrow 1-0 victory over Paraguay in South American qualifying, marking Carlo Ancelotti's first win as a team's manager. Vinicius Jr. scored the decisive goal in the second half, capitalizing on a brilliant pass from Matheus Cunha. This win follows Ancelotti's debut match, a 0-0 draw against Ecuador last week. With this qualification, Brazil extends its streak to participate in every World Cup edition. And finally, Manchester City has signed AC Milan midfielder Tijani Reinders for an initial 46.5 million euros on a 5-year contract. This is Pep Guardiola's fourth summer signing. Reinders, 26, is eligible for the Club World Cup and could debut on June 18th. Reinders is excited to join City, aiming to contribute to their success. Last season, he scored 15 goals for Milan and was named Serie A midfielder of the season. is expected to strengthen City's midfield. And that is it for the sports update segment. Back to you, Nana.
One of the stories that actually caught my attention right now is the fact that Nations FC has been sanctioned and awards. The points have been awarded to Basake Holy Stars, and then when you look at the sanction amount as well, 2,500 Ghana cedis, that is one thing that we have to also consider. But the main issue is that is this peppering all the cracks by the GFA and then their inability to make sure that the right thing is done? Because in that particular game, before the game was called off, we saw some questionable refereeing decisions. Prior to that, we saw BBN Gold Stars as well in a match fixing scandal when the scoreline was predicted way before the match, goal scorers as well, and the nature of goals was also predicted way before the match. And now, Basake Holy Stars in this particular fixture playing against Nations FC at their home. When you look at the security scandal that actually happened in that particular game, the number of security officials that were supposed to be present at the game, less than half of them were available at that particular game. When you look at the way the fans were treated, ticket holders weren't allowed to enter the stadium, and you look at the way that their players were treated right before they entered the stadium to actually play the game. When you look at the way their president, Divine Chebwedu, was also manhandled, and you look at the way that Dr. Kwame Che as well was also manhandled, not allowed to enter the VIP section. And these are all issues that are around a hostile environment for the football to be played. And according to Nations FC, when you saw their reports, when they realized that the grounds and then the conditions weren't favorable to them, they decided to opt out.
I understand your sentiment. And then as the reports that came out, GFA is not making this decision based on a one-sided story. We have seen both parties present their issues to the board. They sat down, did a thorough investigation. Until now, there is still investigation. They are investigating the officials, especially. So
for me, if you've not finished investigating the officials, then why then do you hasten the decision to award the points and then and all that to
unfortunately, this decision was based on the results they have come up with right now.
And then that is without investigating the officials. If you realize that there's been some bribery and then the officials have received some money, do you then come back to rescind your decision and award the points to another team?
This decision is not carved in the rock, because they have opened the door for appealing. So I think they can have the opportunity to appeal if you feel otherwise, you feel you haven't been treated fairly. So I think we should give them the room, we should give GFA the room. They have asked for teams to appeal, asked for officials to appeal if there is a need to. And let's talk about the World Cup spots. Brazil, what do you think? Brazil, they have extended their streak in winning, in qualifying for the World Cup, and then you can tell from the quality of players they have now and how they are performing. Did you enjoy their game, their last game? Did you
against Paraguay? I actually watched it because I had some personal interest in there. I had some players that I support from my club side actually take to the stage and play there as well. I saw Gabriel Martinelli marauding down left wing. I saw Matheus Cunha as well playing in there. I saw Vinicius Jr., who was playing like a possessed man. I saw Casemiro also holding anchoring the midfield. Even at his old age, he's playing even better when it comes to the Brazilian national team. So these were things that I spotted in that game. But Brazil and World Cup is like water and hydrogen. Definitely that particular element.
They will qualify.
It's definitely
let's look at Carlo Ancelotti's decision. Starting some of the players. I mean, looking at their performances in back at home with their clubs, and then their performances right now as in the international field. Do you think it was right to play some of these players ahead of the already 11 that we know of?
Well, when it comes to Don Carlo, as I actually call him, and his lineups, once he gets the points and he gets the clean sheets, you can actually say it's something that you can actually build on. And definitely, national teams, they go through transitions. They go through periods of change. Now, we are looking at the Brazilian national team. I realized that the number of players that they had, the core players in their defense and all that, there was a time that Lucio was a linchpin in the defense. Then they transitioned to Thiago Silva. Then it's now even transitioning to Arsenal's Gabriel and the likes, although he was injured in this particular fixture. So you can actually see that there's a gradual progression. And when it comes to the Brazilian national team, there's a gradual transition of when it comes to their players. So it remains to be seen whether he was giving them a feel of the game, knowing that Paraguay is...
But that was very risky because a loss to this match would have taken him out of...
But I think they've actually qualified now.
Yeah, they have.
So,
I mean, it was a very risky...
When you look at the strength of the opposition as well, you can actually take some of these...
But that was a 1-0 win.
Yeah, it was a look at the quality of chances that they got. And the number of...
Vinicius, as usual, Vinicius.
Yeah.
Vinicius is a very good player. No doubts about that. But then there is more room for improvement.
Yeah, definitely.
On Vinicius' part. But he's very good. Anyway, thank you very much, Noah. Sorry. Thank you very much, viewers. As usual, my name is Benedict Nketiah, and I was your host for the Sports Update segment. Next is the business segment with Peter.
With the Cluster Bank, we are bringing you a live filled with electrifying tunes, good vibes, and a whole lot of fun.
Whether it's singing along, dancing, or just soaking in the atmosphere, we have something for everyone. Expect surprise performances, exclusive behind-the-scenes stories, and a chance to connect with us like never before.
Don't miss out. So tell a friend to tell a friend.
And join us for happy hour.
Get ready to rock it out. Happy hour with the Cluster Bank.
where neutrality in the civil service is paramount, Ghana finds itself at a crossroad.
CLOSAG says that a certain action should be taken, but government has to act on the basis of law. So we inquired as to what the premise for that demand is.
They say if you wish to broadcast or otherwise manifest your political allegiance or run political office, step away from the services. This is Supreme Court talking. It's not CLOSAG speaking or Isaac Bampado speaking. This is the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court judgment on the landmark case of CLOSAG versus the Attorney General has set the stage for a profound transformation. Introducing Resetting the Civil Service. Tune in to be part of this change, because a better civil service means a better Ghana.
I find it refreshing always when I remind myself of the profound statement by the eminent civil servant, Mr. Anankwa of blessed memory, to the effect that it is the perfection of the civil servant that will move this country forward, and not the politician.
In shaping economic growth, fostering social stability, and enhancing overall productivity. As the workforce
Hello and welcome to the Business Update segment on the Koko Digest Morning Show. I am Peter Nsia, and now let's get started with our stories. In our first story, the Ghana Chamber of Mines has called on the government to eliminate value-added tax on mineral exploration, arguing that tax hinders discovery of new mineral resources and threatens sustainability of future mining operations.
General meeting held in Accra on May 30, 2025, the President, Michael Edem Akafia, exploration plays a crucial role in maintaining the long-term viability of the mining industry. He emphasized that applying VAT to exploration-related expenses discourage investment in identifying new mineral deposits, which is vital for sustaining production levels. This concern is particularly relevant as Ghana aims to strengthen its position as a leading mining destination in Africa. While countries like South Africa and Morocco have benefited from increased exploration investment, Ghana and several of its West African neighbors have experienced reductions in funding, largely due to policy and investment-related challenges.
And away from Ghana Chamber of Mines, Ghana's economy experienced a growth of 5.3% in the first quarter of 2025, surpassing the 4.9% growth recorded in the same period of 2024. The non-oil growth rate was notably higher at 6.8%.
The Ghana Statistical Service attributed this growth to strong performance in the services sector and a recovery in agriculture. However, the industry sector lagged with a growth of only 3.4%, primarily due to sluggish activity in oil and gas. Government statistician Dr. Al-Hassan Idrisu highlighted that while all sectors saw growth, industry faced a contraction. The services sector's growth was largely driven by ICT, along with significant contributions from finance, insurance, transport, storage and health and social work sectors.
And in our last story, the African Export-Import Bank has announced ambitious projections for the upcoming intra-African trade fair, forecasting over $44 billion in the new trade and investment agreement. set to take place in Algiers, Algeria from September 4 to 10. This year's edition is expected to be the most expensive and influential yet.
The event will gather more than 2,000 exhibitors from upwards of 75 countries and attract over 35,000 participants. It aims to significantly advance the African Continental Free Trade Area agenda by shifting the focus of trade from raw materials to value-added products and services. Addressing stakeholders during the IATF 2025 Ghana Roadshow in Accra, Dr. Yemi Kau, Afrexim Bank's Group Chief Economics and Managing Director for Research, emphasized the fair's strategic importance in turning continental trade policies into concrete economic opportunities. In a strong appeal to Ghanaian stakeholders, Dr. Kau encouraged the country to assume a leadership role at the event rather than merely participating. He called on Ghana to take center stage by showcasing its businesses, organizing regional pavilions, featuring local artists, and actively engaging in deal-making. Reiterating the bank's commitment, Afrexim Bank described Ghana as a pivotal partner in its development efforts, noting the country's founding membership status and the bank's ongoing support across various sectors. Looking ahead, the bank expressed its intention to deepen its involvement in boosting Ghana's export-driven growth and enhancing its competitiveness on the continent.
And that's all we have for you on the Business Update segment. I am Peter Insia. Up next is the main discussion. Stay tuned.
This is how we do. M-I-M-I, Divalish, a.k.a.
Music lovers, we are the Perfect Group.
So get ready for an unforgettable music experience on our upcoming show, Happy Hour with the Cluster Band.
We are bringing you a live show with electrifying tunes, good vibes, and a whole lot of fun.
Whether it's singing along, dancing, or just soaking in the atmosphere, we have something for everyone. Expect surprise performances, exclusive behind-the-scenes stories, and a chance to connect with us like never before.
Don't miss out. So tell a friend to tell a friend.
And join us for Happy Hour.
Get ready to rock with us.
Happy Hour with the Cluster Band.
A vital role in shaping economic growth, fostering social stability, and enhancing overall productivity. As the workforce undergoes continuous transformation,
It is crucial to not only educate but also to actively engage all stakeholders in meaningful discussions on labor policies, workers' rights, and current labor trends. In responding to these pressing needs, Clock TV introduces Walatu Walasa, a dynamic and engaging program dedicated exclusively to exploring the multifold realms of labor issues. This innovative program aims to provide a robust platform for in-depth discussions surrounding employment relations, the rights of workers, the quest for industrial harmony, and evolving landscape of work. Walatu Walasa seeks to bring to bear the challenges and opportunities facing the labor force today, making a significant contribution to public discourse. My name is Edwin Akwe, your host of Walatu Walasa.
In a world where neutrality in the civil service is paramount, Ghana finds itself at a crossroad.
Clossard says that a certain action should be taken, but government has to act on the basis of law. So we inquired as to what the premise for that demand is.
They say if you wish to broadcast or otherwise manifest your political allegiance or run political office, step away from the services. This is Supreme Court talking. It's not Clossard speaking or Isaac Bampado speaking. This is the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court judgment on the landmark case of Clockside versus the Attorney General has set the stage for a profound transformation. Introducing Resetting the Civil Service. Tune in to be part of this change, because a better civil service means a better Ghana.
I find it refreshing always when I remind myself of the profound statement by the eminent civil servant, Lieutenant Anankwa of blessed memory, to the effect that it is the perfection of the civil servant that will move this country forward, and not the politician.
This is how we do it. M-I-M-I, Divalish.
Into the heart of entertainment. That where we explore the latest trends in the entertainment industry. From viral moments to hottest celebrity stars, we've got you covered. Have questions? We want to hear from you. Your voice matters. Let's vibe together. I gotta say it, you wanna hear it. You're always on my mind.
Happy hour with the Clossard Band. We are bringing you a live filled with electrifying tunes, good vibes, and a whole lot of fun.
Whether it's singing along, dancing, or just soaking in the atmosphere, we have something for everyone. Expect surprise performances, exclusive behind-the-scenes stories, and a chance to connect with us like never before.
Don't miss out. So tell a friend to tell a friend.
And join us for happy hour.
Get ready to rock it out. Happy hour with the Clockside Band.
They say is the backbone for national development, playing a vital role in shaping economic growth, fostering social stability, and enhancing overall productivity. As the workforce undergoes continuous transformation, it is crucial to not only educate but also to actively engage all stakeholders in meaningful discussions on labor policies, workers' rights, and current labor trends. In responding to these pressing needs, Clock TV introduces Walatu Walasa, a dynamic and engaging program dedicated exclusively to exploring the multifold realms of labor issues. This innovative program aims to provide a robust platform for in-depth discussions surrounding employment relations, the rights of workers, the quest for industrial harmony, and evolving landscape of work. Walatu Walasa seeks to bring to bear the challenges and opportunities facing the labor force today, making a significant contribution to public discourse. My name is Edmund Akwe, your host of Walatu Walasa.
In a world where neutrality in the civil service is paramount, Ghana finds itself at a crossroad.
Crossroad says that
the President on 31st May, in his address at the thank you tour in the Afro region, mentioned that the government would soon begin a labor export program, and this is why we are here today to discuss the impact of this particular labor export program. What impact does it have on our net factor income from abroad? What impact does it have on governance? What impact does it have on structuring the labor force in Ghana, and then the strength of labor unions and labor as well in Ghana? This is the reason why we are seated here today. My name is Nanaya Asari. I'm here with Clement Yabankwe and Mr. Sirin Kwashi to actually digress or dissect into this particular issue to find out the implications, whether this particular labor export program is feasible. What are some of the challenges that we'll be facing in the labor export program? Yes. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Quite interesting there.
Very interesting now.
Would you want to be part of the labor export program?
Oh, why not? If they need, maybe.
Okay, maybe Clock TV in
exactly
in Switzerland.
Have a collaboration with BBC. Exactly. We'll go there. You see, it's not only about the money, but we go there for expertise. We go there to learn new things. So after learning new things, we bring it to the country and we equally teach the country about it. So when they need, maybe, we'll see what we'll do.
Okay, Mr. Stephen Kwashi, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
So you'll be helping us to talk about the economic impact of this particular labor and labor export program and all that comes together with it. Clement, let me just give you. Do you have anything about the labor export program that you want to actually bring to the fore before we get the conversation going?
Okay, so what I just want to say is that in Ghana we have what we call the labor deficit in this country, because the unemployment rates keeps on increasing because we have a small sector or a small employment rate to accommodate this kind of people. So if we have excess labor, then what are we supposed to do? I think it's good enough that we embark on this labor export program. But Nana, as we said earlier, there are lots of challenges aside its benefits. So these are the things we would like the government to take into consideration before they officially come out with this program. Even without this program, people are trying to move out of the country in their own ways, sometimes with agencies, and these agencies end up charging huge sums of money. They tell you that we are sending you there after some years, you work and you pay. By the time you realize they are calculating almost 100% profit on whatever they are doing. So if government is stepping in, and I think it's a good thing to do. And I know most people are going to embrace this because of one, it's going to be regulated by the country, and there's going to be enough protection, because that is what people always talk about. When you move out of the country, there are a lot of insecurity there. So if government is coming, then I think it's going to be a good cause for us.
It's going to be a very good cause for us, but there are some economic implications. That is, a lot of people are actually saying that if you are building the country, if you are actually building the economy of this particular country that we aim to do, why then do you take away young, brilliant minds who can actually be put to the fore in this particular country? If this country were to be maybe developed to an extent, then you'd actually realize that you can actually maybe export these labor. But then now, Clement mentioned there's a labor deficit, all right, but also there's the abundance of resources that these labor can actually tap into to make sure that economic activity goes on very well in the country. So I want you to just give your opening statement on its economic impact when it comes to this country.
Thank you very much. And labor exports in itself is a good thing, and it has different forms of advantages. Even if we talk about the skills transfer, like you said, if Clock TV is supposed to partner with BBC in the West, and you go there, maybe you do a 1 year, 2 years, when you come back to Clock TV, there are a lot of things that you will learn at that place that you will have to implement here. Sure. So we are not talking about permanent labor exportation or permanent migration. We are talking about people go, they earn some living, they get some skills, and they come back. Those are the things we are talking about. So, overall, there's going to be a positive impact on us, because we have high unemployment, like you mentioned. Exactly. And not just unemployment, we have the underemployment. Sure. People are earning salaries that are not enough to cater for their basic needs. That is why they are pushing to go out there. So when they go out there, they have the testimonies and they share it with all of us. And we can also see somebody you are struggling with after school, you are all looking for a job, and the person had the opportunity to travel. Within a year or two, the person is able to make a good living. That's just a personal testimony. And if you put it on a large scale, you know how the ripple effect is going to affect the entire economy. So I think when we go into details, we look at the various aspects that we want to tackle on. But I believe it's a good move for Ghana to try to export. We are not the only country to do that. India has tapped into this largely using tech. The Philippines, Philippines is also like low, middle income country like that, but they've tapped seriously into labor exports, and it is actually working for them. So I think there's a lot of lessons we can learn, and the economic impact is real, as we are going to discuss.
Yes. So the economic impact is real. So just before we enter into the meat of the discussion in itself, I want you to actually follow us on this. Let us go to the genesis, where this particular story is coming from. This was a video. This is a video that's coming from John Mahama. That's His Excellency President John Mahama. His thank you tour. When he got to the Afro region, this is what he had to say concerning the labor export program. So stick and stay.
We'll soon launch a Ghana labor export program. There are labor shortages in many countries across the world. We are negotiating with several of those countries to export some of our professionals to work on fixed-term contracts abroad. This will include agricultural workers, construction workers, electricians, welders, mechanics, health workers, chefs and caterers, drivers, machine operators, warehouse supervisors, among others. A contract has already been signed with one country for the export of 2,000 temporary workers. Young qualified people will be selected fairly from all the 16 regions of our country, including Ahafo. We will soon launch a Ghana labor export program. There are labor shortages in many countries across the world. We are negotiating with several of those countries to export some of our professionals to work on fixed-term contracts abroad. This will include agricultural workers, construction workers, electricians, welders, mechanics, health workers, chefs and caterers, drivers, machine operators, warehouse supervisors, among others. A contract has already been signed with one country for the export of 2,000 temporary workers. Young qualified people will be selected fairly from all the 16 regions of our country, including Ahafo.
So yes, that is where you have it. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was actually talking about this on his thank you tour when he got to the Ahafo region. He says that the government have already signed an agreement with one country for the export of 2,000 labor, that is human resources, for temporary recruitment. We'll get into the meat of this action, and helping us do the discussion today is yours truly, Mr. Stephen Kwashi, who is also here with us in the studio. We also have Mr. Eugene Nakwalite, who was the former Chief Labor Officer at the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, and we also have Mr. Martin Ohini Nim, who will be joining us via phone call. That is Mr. Eugene Nakwalite, and then Dr. to-be Martin Ohini Nim will also be joining us via phone call to actually digress the economic, social, and governance impact when it comes to this particular labor export program. So now let's just go into it. Clement, let me start with you. I know you've got some questions to ask, but let's talk about the feasibility of this in general. Is this feasible?
Nana, yes. So I think before I speak on this, I remember somewhere last year, December, on this morning show, we had the guest, Mr. Kwashi, on the show. It was hosted by Beatrice Asaden, and Mr. Kwashi made a very profound statement that Ghana, the angle we are supposed to go is labor exports. And today the president is saying this. I want to find from Mr. Stephen Kwashi the basis, on what grounds did he make such statement?
Yeah, thank you very much. Maybe you can call me a prophet. You know, people are already migrating. That's one thing you need to look at. People are already moving out on their own means, you know, to work abroad.
Yeah,
and
with or without the government.
With or without the government. And what we have here is people are struggling. People are struggling. They are looking for work to do. They are not getting work to do, and that. But the same skill set they have here, that same skill set is needed elsewhere. But because they don't have anything or anybody to employ them with their skill set, then they become redundant. You get it? And it's also a mindset thing, because sometimes, you know, people can actually become entrepreneurial on their own to use their skill, but it's a mindset thing which cannot use a day or two to change. So when you look at this large pool of people who have skills, maybe they are carpenters, maybe they are this large scale pool of people. If you have these people around and they are still unemployed and they are burdening the country and they are increasing the unemployment rate, you know, the wisest thing to do is to what? Maybe re-educate them, organize them very well, and send them to places that their skill set will become relevant. So it is something that I think, I know previous government would have seen it, but maybe it is not with the raw power to actually implement it. That is the issue, because like you said, with or without the government, they are doing it. So I look at the surplus labor here, the underemployment here, and I realize that no, the way to go for our country, like the short-term way to go, is to send these people outside the country. And I like it that, you know, the president also spoke. I believe the presidency or the government institution, they are listening to Clock TV. They are listening to Clock TV, and it's a good direction. So it's all because of the high unemployment in the country, mainly the youth, and the underemployment too.
Regarding that question, I would like to find out from you, in the aspect of labor exports, we have an issue what we call the brain drain. That is, they end up taking the more skillful people, more experienced people out of the jurisdiction, and they go out there. When a situation like this happens, we end up losing this experienced hand in the country, so it affects productivity. So what would you like to tell government in the aspect of putting the policy together, bringing all the strategy in place regarding this labor export program. In this aspect, what should the government look out for?
Okay, so right now, the issue of brain drain itself is debatable.
Okay.
Because now, let's take it this way. Let's say these fine brains, they are in Ghana, and they are not being employed. Their nice brain and ideas are not being utilized. What that is brain being rotten.
Brain redundant.
Brain redundant is even more dangerous than brain drain.
Okay.
Do you get it? So for me, the issue of brain drain doesn't come in for me because the facilities itself are not there. If you like, just look at sports. Look at these brilliant talents we have in Ghana. If they are still in Ghana, their performance or their career wouldn't peak. But what do? We try to send them to the Western countries. They go for their training sessions, and now they become like the top players for us. So if you look at our Black Stars, what do we have? Most of them are what? From this international. Yeah, it's the same thing. So brain drain doesn't come in for us because we don't even have the resources, the facilities to harness this brain. The best and short term for us is to send the people out. And in terms of policy, government should make use of the embassies, and put in this welfare.
We'll get into the policies and how to make sure that it's run perfectly well. But now let's go back a little bit. Okay. Let's establish a few things.
Okay.
We've realized that there's labor surplus and there's job deficit in the country, causing mass unemployment. We've also seen that there's a wide tapestry of natural resources. There's a wide tapestry of other resources that could be, or that the labor can actually utilize, so that our economic production would be boosted or would increase. So, because the way we are going about things, if we actually should maybe put labor exports to the fore and looking at the conditions of the country, almost every youth would want to run out of the country to actually go in, because the same work I'm doing over here, the same work you're doing over here, you may do in another country and get better returns. So if you have that particular opportunity to go and do that work, you wouldn't think twice because of financial or economic returns. You'll be better off economically, financially. So now, how do we then make sure that this particular thing can sort of be harnessed into productivity that would actually make use of our resources internally here in the country and then harness economic productivity?
Okay, so if I get you, it means that you want us to look at alternatives rather than straightforward kind of exporting our people out, making use of our own resources here.
Not that, because clearly earlier on we established that with or without the government, labor is being exported. So that is, those who want to do that and have the means to actually do that, do it. So now I'm trying to find out, should it be in the best interest of the government to make sure that my best human resources will stay in my country to develop it and make it better? Or we are seeing, we saw quite recently, or in the past three years, look at the number of health officials or professionals that leave the country to seek greener pastures elsewhere. Some employed, some unemployed, but they are all leaving. So now let's bring it to our discussion now. How then do we structure it in such a way that it will be attractive for us over here to make sure that we are actually working, getting the returns that we want or need, and it will be better for us?
Yeah, I get you. So, when it comes to money, love of country is secondary. People's primary needs comes first before they talk about the love for country. Because you mentioned the health issue, some of our nurses, they are on strike. They are on strike for what? Condition of service. They get it. So do you want them to be here and to be on strike, or you want some of them to go and be employed, so that those who are willing to work, sometimes once we are looking for a higher condition of service, somebody even want your current state but cannot even get. Do you get it? So let's just open, in my view, let's just open it up. Government should come in and regularize it so that it shouldn't be like individual. Have contract, because when, for example, health workers are moving to other countries, they go and work in public facilities still. So we can have that arrangement with those countries so that if they don't go there and they don't become idle, because that's what we are currently having in the UK. Most of our nurses are going there, those home cares, and now they are stranded. A lot of people are stranded in UK. But is UK the only place? Is US the only place? No, there are a lot of opportunities. Because we are doing it on our own, that is why we cannot tap into the shortages. But if the government is the one supposed to explore where the shortages are, we will be better off. So the resources, we will use it, our own resources. The best brain, don't worry about the best brain. The best brain, they know what is good for themselves. Let's not worry about them. And there are a lot of people here in Ghana, even if you take best brains away, a lot of people are still in Ghana to develop this country.
I think he stressed on the fact of the best brain. It will be kind of sad if, as when you go to a particular institution and this person has worked for over years, has all the experiences, he knows the in and out of the organization, and you wake up one day and you be like, this person has been exploited because of labor. I think that is a situation that some even labor unions don't want to happen in the first place. If you want to come out with this labor export program, they wouldn't like, for example, what happens to that institution taking out this best brain. So possibly we just expect the government to consider this export. If you're exporting, which kind of people are you going to export? Is it the people who are unemployed? Is it the people who are already employed? Is it the people who are underemployed? So these are the angles we expect.
So then again, it comes to the fact that a lot of reasoning needs to go around exactly that thing in determining its feasibility. If you are not employed, and then all of a sudden, or I see myself maybe as a senior to you in this particular organization, you are not employed, in the corridors waiting for employment, and I'm employed, working, and then there's an opportunity for the government to actually take someone out. I would prefer that the government and make better financial returns as it is most of the case. I would prefer that maybe, or someone would prefer that the government would export me, who I'm working and I'm more experienced and all that. Then I leave to make better returns out of the country. And then you bring in the person that is waiting or in the corridors for employment to come and fill my vacant position. But then the issues that happen with this is that one, institutional memory will be lost. Exactly. When I'm leaving with a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information that I've actually built when I've worked in the organization. Now we saw that there is this temporary arrangement or agreement that has been also done. Now if this agreement is temporary, to what extent do I return? And when I return, to what level am I returning to? Exactly. To what desk am I returning to? Is my desk going to remain vacant for me till I come back and all that? These are some of the reasoning that we have to do in and around the feasibility studies. If I go, the promotions that were supposed to have been up to have accrued to me because I was on national assignment, do I still get these positions back? When I go, is it the government of Ghana that is going to pay my salary, or my new employers are going to pay me? Are the employers going to pay the government of Ghana and then they are going to remit my salaries to me via whatever means that they are going to do? What percentage of my salary is going to the government as being the agency that referred to me to that particular? So you realize that just thinking about yourself, there are plethora of things that you have to think about when it comes to its feasibility, Mr. Kwashi.
Yeah, there are a lot of things. If you really want to go into it, there are a lot of things that you have to be thinking about. But like you said, the receiving country wouldn't receive a new nurse or a new teacher. The receiving country, where you are taking your labor to, well, he's looking for experts. You get it? So the issue we have to now begin to talk about is training and leadership. Okay. The people that we intend, maybe in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, the people we intend to export, let's now expand the training the training for those categories of people, so that we didn't have issues of maybe we are taking the best brains out. No, we all of us have good brains in Ghana. Good brains are in Ghana. You get it?
Yeah.
So let's train more people, so that when other people leave, they will come and fill the gap. And mind you, the people shouldn't come back and become employees. These people should come back and become employers.
Sure.
Because they've gone to gather some resources. So if the person is a nurse, the person should come back, go to the village and build some hospital. So we're not talking about the people coming back to fill up their old vacancy. Otherwise, what is the purpose of going out and
so how many people can go? Do you think that these 2,000 people that are all going out to whatever employment or countries that they've actually been received, are they mandated to come back after what particular period? If they are going there for just 2 years, do you gather enough capital to come and start a business? Or you just gather enough capital to maybe live well?
You know, the proof of all these things, that when people move out, they are even able to send monies to their relatives here to even start business whilst they are even there. You know, starting business in Ghana, you don't need a lot of money.
Okay.
You just need you don't need a lot of money to start But you know, the kind of people you are dealing with, you know, poverty line, I just checked the poverty line, is 109.5. Okay, that's about 1,003 or 1,004.
Okay.
The kind of people we are dealing with are people who are looking for between 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 to meet their basic needs. So this exploitation we are talking about, we are not talking about people earning 20,000 cities, 30,000 cities.
Mr. Kwasi, I think you are taking it from a different angle, because the understanding I have, it's as a result of unemployment. As a result of unemployment.
Not only unemployment, underemployment.
Okay, unemployment.
The people are employed, but the salaries they are receiving is too small. So they are no longer comfortable. Do you think somebody who is unemployed can pay money to travel outside? They don't have the money.
Oh, basically, some of
they have to be
sponsors.
They are sponsors and stuff. But most people I know, you know, I have colleagues who have moved outside. Most people I know, they are working. Their salary is not enough. Then through the process, they are gathering money and they move. Recently, I've been seeing the pictures of my colleagues. Most of them who are outside, they've joined the UK army. Do you get it? Yeah. So do you think it's because they are unemployed? Now, people move from Ghana army and join UK army. People move from Ghana army and join US army. What is the issue? Is it because they are unemployed? No, it's because the monies they are receiving and the needs, their responsibilities are too many. So first of all, I'm thinking of it from the underemployment perspective. Okay. So that when those people go, those who are unemployed will begin to fill the gaps and we are moving on. That's how I'm looking at it.
Well, it's very, very dicey when you talk about this and its feasibility and all that. So, but let me find out from you. Okay. Just point blank. Okay. Do you think this is feasible?
Yes, it's 100% feasible. Not only for our country, it has happened in other countries. Philippines, like I said, India is even, like, in terms of GDP is huge than Ghana, but they are so huge on labor exploitation, and they are using it from the tech side. So if you ask me, is it feasible? It is feasible. If somebody think it's not feasible, they should look for the examples of countries who have actually used labor exploitation to change their economy, to learn from them. And that is how our country too can also make progress.
Now let's look at some of the economic implications on this. I'm sure you should have some economic implications. How does this help our economy?
Okay, so right now, the first...
well, let me just talk about some of the downside before I get in. People are saying that, or maybe it's just normal to think that these are, as you call them, best brains or well-equipped labor who would have maybe engaged in a trade or two to increase local productivity. So then, how does this play out for the country's economy when they travel out? Are there any benefits that accrue to the country?
Okay, so first of all, we look at the benefits in terms of, the remittances that comes back to the country. But I really want to stress on the fact of the best brain. We have a lot of brains in Ghana. The people who are moving out are not even the best brain. You get it? We have a lot of people reserved who are doing well. All they need is resources and systems to make them do better. Okay, so I don't want us to think that the people are moving out, the best brains are moving out. No, we have a lot here in Ghana. We don't have a shortage of brains, best brains in Ghana. So let's put it there. Now, when these people go out, okay, and they work, they bring money back into the economy, so it comes in the form of foreign exchange.
Yeah.
Okay, and foreign exchange is huge for us because when you look at our balance of payments and the capital inflows into our country, you realize that remittances plays a major role. Even if you compare it to the foreign direct investment, which is for investment purpose. Okay. Now, these remittances that people go out of the country and they bring money in, it just comes to tackle the household expenses. That is why sometimes you may not look at it at the national level. For me, I'm not looking at this so much at the national level. I'm looking at it at the household level, like the micro level, how it helps the household. So when they send their money, what are they using the money for? It's for food, shelter, health issues, and all those things. Those are what they are using the monies for. So it brings relief to the families. It will surprise you to know that the World Bank has projected that our poverty rate will get to 51.2% by 2027. It means people who are going to, those who earn about 1,500 are just like more than 50% of the economy. So in our country, we are not really looking at so much wealth generation where we are. We are a lower middle income country. We are looking at how to take people out of poverty. That's the first step. So some of the things that we are discussing, you may think that we are looking at it at the national bigger level. No, a lot of people are in the ditch. The government is looking at things overall. These remittances are coming to just pick household from the poverty. And we know we have families in this country. When one or two people move out of the country, they change the family's story. We have the records. So it's not on maybe we shouldn't look at this so much on the national scale. Maybe you can talk to the economists, they will look at it on the national scale. But I want to look at it at the household level. Poverty at the household level is getting to 51%. Like half of your population, more than 15 million of your population is in poverty. So if you have it that way, it means that these remittances will begin to, benefit the household and, release. But what I want to say is that remittances in itself does not lead to development. Remittances on its own, because we have other countries that remittances has made the country poorer. But when you look at, you're a hard-working man. If your uncle is in US and is always giving you money, sometimes you will feel lazy. Now you become bogaba. Instead of working hard, you are only chilling, going to party. You don't follow.
I wanted to say something.
Yes.
You see, he made understand that he's looking at the aspects of household level. This very issue was talked about by the finance minister on the day of presenting budgets, 2025 budget. He made us understand that they are going on this process because they want to boost the economy. So the government initiative is on the broader perspective. It's not just for a household as we go. So in aspect of remittance, then I think the finance man will join us so that I'll have these questions. Because according to World Bank report in 2020, Ghana, our total remittance equates to 10% of our GDP. So if our total remittance was equating to 10% of our GDP, then the government is looking at a point where our remittance would be at least equal to 50% of the GDP or 30% of the GDP. I think that is why this whole issue of labor exports initiative came to bear. So Nana, I think maybe the finance expert will be on the
I want to actually add this. Mr. Martin Ohini's name is also on the line and listening to us, but we'll get to him. Mr. Martin, you're welcome. But just before you answer us, I just want to actually bring this to the fore. We are talking about remittances and how they actually affect our economy. And one means of calculating the GDP is using the income method.
Exactly.
Now, when you're using the income method, there's one particular thing that actually stands out. which is the net factor income from abroad. When you look at remittances received and then remittances given out, then you actually add most of it. You find that the balance, that is, and then you actually, and we saw that one of the main reasons why our GDP wasn't really up there was because for some time it's been in the negative. So, Mr. Martin, if you can actually help us, how does this remittances, including our GDP, development of our GDP and all, what role does it play in stabilizing the economy, in stabilizing the Ghanaian cedi? Hello, Mr. Martin. I think we've just lost him a bit, but Mr. Kwashi, if you can actually just reiterate this particular one a little for us. We know its implications in changing the lives of households and improving lives better. But how then does it transcend to maybe stabilizing the economy, stabilizing the cedi? What role does it play?
So
in here?
that is the exchange rate and the foreign exchange income. Okay, so you know we have cocoa exportation that gives us some foreign exchange income. We have cocoa and stuff. So remittances also play a significant role in that way. So when these monies come, exchange rate depreciation or appreciation is all about the supply and the demand. So now if you have this remittances coming in terms of foreign currencies, it now eases the pressure on your cedi. Okay, because more foreign currencies are coming in. But where I have the issue, okay, the reason why I said that the effect is not straightforward. Where I have the issue is the pathway through which these remittances hits the country. Because this pathway is very important, because if it is not well harnessed, it cannot have that ripple effect we are seeking on the.
But hold yourself just for a second. We have Mr. Martin Ahinim on the line once again. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Hello. Oh, I think there's a little bit of a challenge when it comes to getting feedback from him. Clement, Mr. Kwashi, sorry, before I cut you there.
Yeah, so we have a lot of foreign exchange coming into the country. That's what, and it's huge.
Yeah, very.
If you come to West Africa, Nigeria is one, and Ghana is second. I think battling it with Kenya. Okay, so it's huge. Foreign exchange coming into the country. So we expect that the Bank of Ghana will be able to utilize this foreign exchange coming into the Ghana to ease the pressure, so that instead of the Bank of Ghana actually putting so much pressure to regulate the exchange rate, these remittances that are coming, okay, will be able to ease that pressure. It also affects this our interest rate, like the monetary policy. This monetary interest rates on our goods and commodities. When these foreign exchanges come in, it reduces the pressure on our cedi, so that when we also import, the things we are importing become cheaper. And Ghana is an import-driven country. Even though we seek to do a lot of export, Ghana is import-driven country. So if the pressure on our cedi lowers, it's the imported inflation begins to decrease, and at the end of the day, it affects household pricing and the government.
Okay, I think according to Bank of Ghana statistics on remittance, it says that in 2024, our total remittance received as a country, it's $6.65 billion United States dollars, and it's increased by almost 43% from that of 2023, because in 2023 we had an amount of $5.11 billion United States dollars. So you could say that remittance over the years to the country, or the inwards, is really flowing, and it's boosting the economy. The data from World Bank also says that in 2014, total remittance was $2 billion United States dollars. Let me jump to 2021.
Okay.
2021 total remittance, now that was $4.5 billion United States dollars, which is huge amount of money. $4.5 billion United States dollars. the amount of money we went from IMF, it was total of IMF bailout.
So it was in excess of 3 billion.
Yes, but then I want to make a point. In 2022, now we had 4.7 billion United States dollars. In 2023, it's 5.2 billion United States dollars. So I could see that even before the finance minister came out to say all these things, they have seen a projection remittance. So they consider the exporting of labor and the impact it's going to have in the economy, and as he said, stabilize the city. I know the finance expert might also give us more on this issue. I just want to bring this data out.
Yes, so well, when it comes to our economy and its calculations, right, we take this particular figure of remittance into, and then we also take that of the remittance that's being leached out of the country, and then we compare both of them. Hello, I'm being told that Mr. Martin is on the line. Hello, sir. Hello. Well, I think we're having quite a challenge when it comes to this particular. Hello, Mr. Martin. It's rather quite unfortunate that we can't get to him at the moment, but we want him to actually touch on or delve on the fact the remittance issue. Just as I was saying, that it's not just the remittance into the country, but we also consider the remittance that is leached out of the economy into other how do you call it, other countries. That is, when you look at maybe statistics as well, our net factor income from abroad, as we've actually known, is that it's always in the negative, or quite recently for the past 3 years, I should think so, has been in the negative. So that is also another thing that, so if 4.5 billion is being generated in 2024 remittances into, then it's probably maybe 5.2 billion that's remitted out of the country. So we'll delve into that. But hello, Mr. Martin. Hello, sir. Hello, Mr. Martin.
Yes, hello.
Yes, sir. Good to have you. Finally, we've been trying to get a hold of you. Can you hear me, sir?
Hello?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good to have you on the Koko This Morning Show. My name is Nanaya Asari. I'm seated here with Clement Yabankwe and Mr. Steven Kwashi. We are talking about the impact, the economic impact of the labor export program that was announced by the president of Ghana, I should say. That is on 31st May during his thank you tour in the Bono region, and we are delving deeper into it. What we were discussing right now is about remittances, where we've talked about how feasible it could be, but now we are going and we are talking about remittances. That is when the labor is exported. The one way that it can contribute to the economy of the country is through remittances into the country to support their loved ones, their families, and
I could hardly hear you.
Oh my God!
I could hardly hear you.
Okay, so but is it better? Is it better now?
Yes, it's better now.
Okay, so what we were discussing is the impact of the labor export program that the president announced during his thank you tour at the Bono region. He actually mentioned that the labor export program, there's going to be there's a contract that's already signed with a country that is going to export 2,000 Ghanaian youth or workers to out of the shores of the country for labor exports. We've talked about its feasibility and how it could actually work out when it comes to its feasibility. But now we are delving deeper into what it could do to our economy. And one of the ways that we saw that it could help or aid in our economic growth is through remittances, and that's what we are talking about now. So we want to find out from you the remittance aspect. How then do you think that this remittance that is going to be received from these skilled labor that are being exported, how well do you think is going to be help our economy? That is juxtaposing that against the fact that if these people were maybe given gainful employment in this country, or maybe were asked to tap in the wide tapestry of the Ghanaian resources, if they were actually doing that, how would that also play out against and helping the economy? So that's what we wanted you to touch on a little for us.
All right. Thank you once again for having me, and it's always a pleasure talking to you guys and your team.
Thank you.
Obviously, labor is a major factor of production. The major contributor to any national income and GDP of any country. So the expectation is that investment in education will contribute to the long-term growth trajectory of every country. And that is why we invest, we contribute, we allocate huge portions of our budget to education with overall objectives to increase productivity, scale up the economy, and also increase income levels of any economy. So if we will invest such money into our youth and their citizenry, then we will then be having conversation as to exporting farms, which have its pros and cons. But however, that is a disaster. The advanced economy, why they allow for labor mobility, is because they do that for critical sectors of their economy where they see that there's shortage of labor, and they want to champion productivity in those critical sectors, so that where there's labor shortfall, they can mitigate that through their immigration rules and laws by allowing labor to move from other places where there is surplus need for them or excess supply to where they will need it to support their critical sectors to grow. Now, it tells you that to the extent that we are exporting this labor, it tells you the level of unemployment in the country. Unemployment in itself, we just look at the rate and talk about it. It means that you have resources that you are not deploying, you are not using it, and that's what we call unemployment. So to the extent that at this stage, as a developing economies where we have not developed our economy where production is at that level, and there will be the need to have additional labor, which is not the case in the developing world, then it's even a disgrace to us. Even though there may be positive and when you export things. But what I'm saying is that because you don't have the opportunities and for these people which we have already invested in their education, we are going to let this labor exodus and move from this country and then go and contribute meaningfully to the economic fortunes of other countries, where they will compete globally better than us globally. And that is not good for our country and Africa as a whole. What we need to do is that we need to make sure that we expand the economy well, create the needed opportunities for our youth and then the labor force, so that they can contribute meaningfully to economic growth and development in the country. Now, there was a conversation about remittances and what we'll be earning from them.
Yeah.
We cannot match that with the economic long-term economic growth that would have accrued to this country if these people were were given the needed opportunities to do economic development. Do you understand? So while remittance from them, albeit too small, they do not necessarily contribute majorly to the balance of our economic fortune. So the bigger conversation is that how do our people long term, because you cannot keep labor leaving your country and going to advanced economies and contributing to their economic fortune. You get the point. So policy should then be geared towards how do we expand the economy? How do we grow the economy in the long term? Because when you look at the kind of labor that leaves, like nurses, doctors, and engineers, these are the skills that actually expand the economy. IT guys, they kind of leave the country and go to other advanced economies and contribute meaningfully to their fortune. But these people, the expectation is that if there's opportunities were in the country, they would have been here to help contribute to the growth of the economy. So what I'm trying to say is that it's because of the current state of affairs that we have. That is why we're happy to have this kind of conversation that we are exporting labor. No, it's because we've not created a needed opportunity for these people to be able to do that. However, on the remittance bit, Bank of Ghana, through regulation, is expected to make sure that we account for every remittances that accrue to this country, and that is recorded in an account for the balance of payment. And those fintech institutions, together with the commercial banks that operate in that ecosystem, the expectation is that through regulation, a strong regulation from the Bank of Ghana, we can account for the remittances that come into them, and they can help us increase our foreign exchange and support our city. But the ones that come from family and friends coming to the country and putting it in their bags and all that, it's very difficult globally, not only in Ghana, to be able to account for those remittances that come into the country. So my sister is coming to Ghana, so let me send him some $10,000 to daddy home. But that is not routed through the financial system, and it becomes difficult to account for same. So the conversation is that how do we track those things? Normally, that is tracked through use of survey and interviews to be able to get information as to what the volumes of remittances that escape the financial system. But this is not Ghana is not an outlier. It is a general issue that is pervasive across the world. So on the side where people come from abroad and come home with their foreign exchange, where which does not go through the financial system, that is very difficult to track. But the expectation is that those that run to the financial system will rightly reflect through the balance of payment.
Well, thank you very much. Clement wants to ask you a question, but before he comes in, you were talking about the long-term economic impact of the resources, that's the human resources, being utilized in our country. That is actually going to maybe overshadow the kind of benefits that we are going to get through remittances. But then let me ask, these resources are also there, the human resources are also there as well. And it looks as though right now the best or the fastest way to actually make sure that you are getting some returns from these people instead of leaving them unemployed is to deploy them through Okay, I was saying that when it comes to these unemployment issue, that is, as you mentioned, and the fact that one of the best ways that is remittance, the remittance that is going to be gained through this particular labor export program will downplay or will sort of not overshadow the long-term economic impact that we are going to get from utilizing the labor force or utilizing the labor right here in this country. So now looking at that, don't you think that the best and then the fastest way to actually generate something from this labor, because notwithstanding they've been unemployed for a while, and then it looks as though in the current of our economy,
that is a strategy, because we are not deploying them at their maximum or optimum level. So if the current economic condition will require that we export that is a short-term measure. But in the medium to long term, the question is, how do you use labor as a factor of production or an input in production to grow? You don't let your high set of labor, skill sets of labor, you leave the IT, engineering, what's the name, nurses, doctors, are those key labor sets that any economy that wants to grow will need. But because over the years, leadership has failed. This is the current state of affairs that we have. So in the short term, fine. That is a way to mitigate the unemployment situation that we have. But I'm saying that should not become the norm. Going forward, what economic policies are we embarking on to support overall economic growth, be it led by the private sector? Do you understand? So that we can generate and expand the economy and generate the income that is needed in the economy for these people to stay. Otherwise, we are doing brain drain, and the devastating effect on the long-term trajectory growth trajectory of every economy, it will be very dire. Why don't the advanced economy export their labor? They don't do that because they understand how that labor is a very critical input in production. So they invest largely. They allocate a larger portion of their budget to education. They wouldn't do that, and then want to yield the benefits and the dividend from those investments, and then later export them because they've not created the opportunity. We should tie the economic growth to our investment in labor, so that whilst we are investing in labor, this free SHS thing that we are doing and the free whatever we are doing, whilst we are doing that, investment to be made into areas to expand our infrastructure and the private sector drive to expand the economy, so that when these guys finish, we can tie them to the long-term growth of our economy. So in the short term, I don't have a problem with that because of the current limited opportunities that we have. We can move on that trajectory. But in the long term, policies across board should synchronize and intertwine to make sure that these people are retained here to contribute meaningfully to the economic fortunes of the country.
Okay, rightly said. Clement is also here with us in the studio. He wants to ask a few questions as well.
Yes, and just a quick one. In your submission, you talked about the fact that yes, it's important to know that remittance might not play a major role. But would you agree that remittance from working abroad can play a crucial role in financing the country's imports, reducing its reliance on foreign aid and loans? Would you agree to that?
I think you should share your question again.
Hello.
Yes, I lost you, but please can repeat the question again.
Yes. Okay, so my question is, would you agree that remittance from abroad, that's working abroad, coming to the country, will help solve the issue of importation, our import and exports, the deficits we have, and also help stop the issue of reducing reliance on foreign aid and loans?
Oh, but the question is, what is remittance? What volume is it in terms of how much do we earn from it? Yes, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so now I think let me quickly get that question to Mr. Kwasi. Yeah, Mr. Kwasi, the question is, would you agree that remittance that we are talking about from working abroad can help play a crucial role in financing the country's imports and also reducing our reliance on foreign aid? Would you agree to that?
So I'm a bit indifferent. Like, I don't fully agree to it, because these remittances are not bulk money coming to hit, our accounts. They are splitted. Yeah.
When you put them together, they culminated into 5.2 billion.
Exactly. I get it.
Dollars.
So what I'm saying is that, when you take a foreign aid loan, maybe you are going for a $3 billion, it will hit lump sum into government's account. Then government decides what to use the 3 billion for. But if you get a remittance, of let's say 6 billion, it is not in a lump sum. It goes to different families. So it is that division is what I'm talking about. Because this division, when it is not harnessed, you cannot have a good use of the money. So for example, see the e-levy that has been taken off. When it is given to government, it's a bulk money. Government can use it for specific stuff. But when it's given to the household, it's expected that household will use to increase their consumption, and it will have that multiplier effect.
Okay, so on that note, what do you expect the government to do in preparing this a program called the Labour Export Program in the aspect of the household and the remittance? What should be put in place so that the nation as a whole could benefit from this?
So definitely, if families benefit, do you know the reason I'm coming from the household benefit?
Yeah.
Because that is the route the remittances will pass through before it gets to the national level. So maybe what government should begin to look at is the corridors of transfer. Because for Africa, the corridors of transfers are expensive compared to the Western countries. So when they are high, people will not like to be sending money here. If you have to pay more interest on transfers, they will reduce. So let's begin to speak to this international money transfer company, or maybe our tech guys can actually build a robust international transfer system for us, where even profit and monies are kept here, where the charges on those transfers are reduced. Because if the charges are high, the numbers you are quoting wouldn't even come in for us to even think about what to use the monies for. So government should look at the platforms that we are sending the money to. They should be, the rate on it, they should be reduced. But mind you, we have cryptocurrency now. That is even going to make it more difficult for government to even track these remittances. Okay, so now, this is what I suggest. The household, they should have a different mindset. They should move away from just purely consuming the remittances that gets to them, and see what they can use the remittances for in terms of business and investment. That way, the multiplier effect will linger on to affect national development. Otherwise, when it comes, they send you money, you're just going to buy food and it stops there. I know it will go on, but the chain becomes short. But when they begin to think of the remittances as a way of starting businesses, as a way of doing some form of investment, then these remittances will have a longer pathway, so that eventually it affects national development. Because I've said it, remittances to economic development is not a direct path. It is the financial development of your country that will determine whether these remittances will affect you positively or negatively.
Okay, before you move on, we're going for a break quite shortly. But before we go, let me just read some comments that are coming on from social media, so that when we get them or inform the direction of the conversation the next time we come on, Clement, not forgetting what you have to say as well. This one says, how do farmers, now this person is attributing this to agriculture, how do farmers adapt to labor shortages caused by labor export? This question is coming from Mr. Eldad Opoku from Axim. He says, kudos to Koko. Digest. And another one coming from Mrs. Priscilla Nketia. She says that, good morning, Koko Digest. Please ask my question for me. How do remittances from labor exports impact agricultural investment and productivity? So we're having two particular questions from investment. And then also there's also a third one. I think this is actually going on social media. So they're actually attributing that to how do you call it? Agriculture. This one says that how do farmers adapt to labor shortages caused by labor exports products when it's being launched? Good morning, Koko Digest. G Inspire is my name from Newtown. To my question, gentlemen, how do remittances from labor exports? I mean, almost all of this are coming from agricultural investment and productivity. We'll be having three different questions from that. This is also from Mr. Jima from Sunyane. He says that we are suffering here, we need farmers. So a lot of these questions are not really good. Let's just go for a break. Let's think about this. Let's ponder over this. We'll go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we have to answer these questions and more. Don't go anywhere.
Where neutrality in the civil service is paramount, Ghana finds itself at a crossroad.
Closer says that a certain action should be taken, but government has to act on the basis of law. So we inquired as to what the premise for that demand is.
They say if you wish to broadcast or otherwise manifest your political allegiance or run political office, step away from the services. This is Supreme Court talking. It's not Closer speaking or Isaac Bampado speaking. This is the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court judgment on the landmark case of Clockside versus the Attorney General has set the stage for a profound transformation. Introducing Resetting the Civil Service. Tune in to be part of this change, because a better civil service means a better Ghana.
I find it refreshing always when I remind myself of the profound statement by the eminent civil servant, the Anankwa of blessed memory, to the effect that it is the perfection of the civil servant that will move this country forward, and not the politician.
produce. M-I-M.
Dive into the heart of entertainment. Let's just start where we explore the latest trends in the entertainment industry. From viral moments to hottest celebrity stars, we've got you covered. Have questions? We want to hear from you. Your voice matters. Let's try it together. I gotta say, you wanna hear it. You always on my mind.
They say is the backbone for national development, playing a vital role in shaping economic growth, fostering social stability, and enhancing overall productivity. As the workforce undergoes continuous transformation, it is crucial to not only educate but also to actively engage all stakeholders in meaningful discussions on labor policies, workers' rights, and current labor trends. In responding to these pressing needs, Clock TV introduces Walatu Walasa, a dynamic and engaging program dedicated exclusively to exploring the multifold realms of labor issues. This innovative program aims to provide a robust platform for in-depth discussions surrounding employment relations, the rights of workers, the quest for industrial harmony, and evolving landscape of work. Walatu Walasa seeks to bring to bear the challenges and opportunities facing the labor force today, making a significant contribution to public discourse. My name is Edmond Akwe, your host of Walatu Walasa. With electrifying you, good vibes, and a whole lot of fun.
Whether it's singing along, dancing, or just soaking in the atmosphere, we have something for everyone. Expect surprise performances, exclusive behind-the-scenes stories, and a chance to connect with us like never before.
Don't miss out. So tell a friend to tell a friend.
And join us for Happy Hour.
Get ready to rock with us. Happy Hour with the Clockside Band.
You're welcome back. You're still on the favorite Koko Digest morning show. My name is Nanara Asare, and we're having a discussion on the labor exports program and its economic and governance implications when it comes to this country. And I've been doing this with Clement Ziabankwe, who is co-hosting this with me, as well as Mr. Stephen Kwashi. We also had on call Dr. Tobi, that is. Also, we had him on call with us as well. Dr. Inim as well, he came on call with us, and we were discussing. We've actually talked about remittances and how they impact this particular conversation, that is the labor exports program. We've also talked about its implications and its feasibility, how it's going to stand. And we just before we went on break, we got some questions from social media. Everyone seems to direct this particular attention towards agriculture. So people are seeing that if we are exporting labor we export labor. We say we are doing agriculture and we want to do it big. But if we are exporting our labor, then who are we going to actually put into these agricultural works when they do go? If we are exporting most of our vibrant youth, that is 2,000 people who have already, an agreement for an export of 2,000 with a particular country has been done. But if we are doing this or we keep doing this, then who are we going to actually put into these sectors of the economy which we want to expand?
And before Mr. Kwashi comes in, I think I'll still say that the policy makers would take a critical look at all these things. Because now the policy is not yet out for us to pinpoint that the labor exports program is for this category of people, for these people, nor for these people. And another point I want to make is that 2000, if what the president said is about work abroad, then I saw a communique about people who want to work at Dubai. That's the National Youth Employment Authority brought out a communique that if you want to work in Dubai, follow this link and input your details. It's basically about skilled laborers, the people that's list I saw. So I went from that. Let me the point of the aspect of remittance. I have a kind of a research here. I just want to read that in line with the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations. He says that this situation makes it difficult for the country to take full advantage of remittance from the diaspora in terms of credit multiplier, like as you are saying, savings and investment. It's as a result to Ghana Statistical Service in 2017, they brought out statistics, and in the statistics they are saying that 70% of remittance goes to what we call the school fees payment, goes to medical bills, goes to support families. So you get least amount of remittance that goes into savings and investment, and they are associating this to the fact that those who receive the money they don't have much knowledge on what to use the money for.
It's also reiterating that's not to cut you. Okay. It's also reiterating the fact that Mr. Stephen Kwashi was also saying that these particular remittances, when they come to the household level. And then that is for it to sip through the economy. We are talking about school fees. School fees is the same school fees that is being used to pay teachers, and that is also just run and sip back into the economy. So you can actually see some sort of direct indirect approach over there. So a lot of these things have a way or a bearing on the economy in itself, Clement.
Okay, now so the conversation is, what is the government going to do? Are we going to give more education to the ordinary Ghanaian? That your colleagues or your family outside, when the money comes, is it going to be a conversation that, put the money into this sector? Let's put the money into this sector. Don't just use for consumption purposes, as Mr. Kwashi was talking about. Most go to consumption, as we are talking about. So now a question came: when you export people more, what happens to the agriculture sector? If knowledge or education is given to those of us in Ghana, that when this remittance comes in, don't just consume, but invest in the agriculture sector. Invest more. Labor isn't the only resources needed for production, but it's a major resources. So if labor is not there, technology can be effective over there. So if we have the knowledge of investment, we might end up a work that a person can do, a technology can do. When we go to these developed countries, they don't need labor, human resource anymore. AI is there, and AI is doing everything. So this is the angle I think that the government, if we are exporting more of the labor, then the alternative should be that we are investing in technology. We are investing in other things that will make the country grow, so we don't fall short of productivity. That's the angle I want to make it from.
So I also want to have Mr. Ohininim, Martin Ohininim right on the line again. But I want to not tackle it, but I'll also see things from this particular perspective just before we ask him about the implications on agriculture. Now let's take it from this particular angle. Now, whether it is invested directly or indirectly, it's going to have a bearing on the economy. That is, because when the monies are remitted we receive money from abroad, be it for school fees, as I mentioned, the school fees in the short term is going to be used to maybe purchase food for the kids in school. It's going to be used to pay teachers. and then it is engaging in economic activity there again. If it is aiming for direct consumption, what are you consuming? If you take it and you go and buy foodstuff from the market, you are giving the farmer that produced these goods direct investment. You are investing into that particular produce, although you are using it to buy consumables. But you can see that it's also having another direct bearing on the economy, one way or the other. Because once money is being remitted from abroad, that is, you can actually see that it's going to enter the economy one way or the other. If it is being invested in maybe a bond, you are also giving the country a loan, which is also being used in building of roads and other stuff. So it's also coming back to sort of sip into the economy. So there are lots of these things that are going on. I want to connect to Mr. Martin. So keep your thoughts. Don't forget it. Sure. Just keep it in mind. Hello, sir. Hello, Mr. Martin.
Yeah, hello, Simon.
Hello, Mr. Martin.
Yes, I can. Hello, can I hear you?
Yes. Good to have you back on the show. Now we are turning our attentions away from the remittances a little bit, and then we are talking about the impact of agriculture, I should say, locally in the country.
Hello, Simon. I could hear the discussion, but the moment you put me on, then I'm unable to hear you well.
Okay, but is it better now? Mr. Martin, is it better now?
Hello, Simon.
Yeah, Mr. Martin, please, is it okay now?
Yes, it's better, yes.
Okay, so this is Manayao. We are talking about the impact of this labor export program, and then we have our viewers online texting us and asking about the fact that we say we want to boost agricultural productivity locally, but then we want to engage as well in the labor export program. So how is this particular labor export program going to impact agricultural investment when that is done?
Yes, exactly the same conversation I had earlier, that you mentioned technology and then the invention of AI and all that. Let me tell you, what those do that to actually enhance the productivity of labor, because you can't just make use of those technology and AI on their self, but you need a combination of that with labor to produce goods and services. You understand?
Yes.
So because that just improve the technology on itself to begin to work. You need to both labor and technology have complementary attributes. They come together to enhance productivity in any economy. So the question was in its right sense that when we have this exodus of brains, and what happens to agriculture, not only agriculture, but the overall productivity of the economy. You understand? We don't know what segment of labor that will be going out that policy. But if we guide the kind of discussions that we will have, but the understanding we are able to, the understanding we are getting is that there will be export of labor. Now, whatever the case is, the conversation still comes with the same thing now. These budgetary allocations are made in the lives of our young people and the labor. We don't pay money, you don't invest money to not yield the dividend, okay? Now, you invest and you make these people idle in the long term. What are you doing to the economy? You are hurting it, right? Remittance do not contribute major portion of our export, our foreign exchange earnings. You understand? It's through export of commodities and what we do in the trade account. That is what supports our foreign earnings. Both capital and capital inflows contribute major portion of our foreign exchange earnings, as well as those that we get from our export earnings. Remittance from a very small portion of that. So this I will go. So so they are not generating any income now. But if you're able to export them now, get in the country to support it. Otherwise, any that were not there will not come into the country to support whatever economic needs that we will get from there.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. We'll hold your thoughts on that particular one there. Because of time, we would have to end with you right there. We want to digress a little bit and talk about, touch just some few seconds, Clement. So you mentioned your point, and then we'll talk about the governance aspect in just a second. Before we go. So because of time. So Clement, the point you wanted to raise before.
So Nana, what I want to say is that
the policymakers should look at all these angles, all these things we've discussed. Especially, much concern is about when Labour is exported, the kind of situation they go through in the foreign country. We weren't able to discuss that, but that is another thing we should consider. When you export them, what is the measures put in place for them? Their safety, their well-being, their welfare, protecting them. So these are conversations that I think the policymakers should equally look into. Now the last thing is about the unions we have in Ghana. If you're exporting them, do they still belong to the unions, or you're exporting them for them to join a different union? I know we have the International Labour Organization. When all this issue comes in, they will all have to come to play. So this will continue to talk about this until the program policy is really out, so we know what is really inside.
All right, so we'll definitely continue to talk about it before the program policy is out. Definitely, maybe just as Mr. Stephen Kwashi mentioned, they watched the show, so probably they're going to take a cue or two from it. Mr. Kwashi, just your final words before we go.
Okay, so I would say that the issue of brain drain, we shouldn't be worried so much about it because the brains are here and they are not being utilized fully.
But they're also being underpaid.
And they are being underpaid. You know, these are like double issues, okay, for me. So in the short term, like Mr. Nim said, in the short term, we ease the unemployment. These people go out there and they can come back. Maybe it's not so much about the remittances. That's why I told you that I don't see the remittance so much on the national level. But I see the remittance so much in the household level to take the people out of poverty. The only issue we have, just my last point, is that we've mastered survival and we've neglected stewardship. That is why our people are not even able to utilize the small remittances that comes. So when we're able to become good stewards of the monies that hits the households, we begin to do certain investment and businesses with these small remittances. Then in the long term, it will affect national development. At the end of the day, we don't want 51% of Ghanaians to enter poverty line by 2027. So let us do what we have to do. If it's necessary for you to go out and get some experience and income, kindly go. Just the government should just help to make this procedure safe for all of us.
Thank you very much, Clement. Okay, so just as he said, we have mastered the art of survival, but have we mastered the art of stewardship? It remains to be seen. The question lies within your bosom. Thank you for joining me on the Koko Digest Morning Show. Today we discussed the impact of the Labour Export Program. We'll be diving deeper next time. Don't go anywhere. My name is Nanaya Wasara. I did this today with Clement Yabankwe co-hosting me, as well as our guest in the studios, Mr. Stephen Kwashi. It's been a pleasure coming to your homes, coming to your phones, coming to your screens to bring you the best when it comes to the morning shows and discussions. It's a pleasure. Arrivederci. We'll see you.
Clog TV, beyond the policy.